What is going on, fellas? We are back. Little Wednesday, July 3rd, Best Ball Mania duo stream here. We'll do Best Ball Mania entry number 16 and 17 on Spicy Hot's account here, doing the old Ghost Draft Classic. And of course, as you guys pile in here, we will fill out this draft. And if you want to draft with us, you can just enter when we are drafting. So we'll give it, 35, 40 seconds until we enter into this thing, and then you guys can get into this draft with us and we'll get it going. So before we get into the stream here, Danny, what's been your recent clicks in Best Ball Mania? There's a couple guys that I've been trying to get my exposure up on.
I mean, recent clicks overall, going off of, I'll just check my quickly my exposures, season exposure. So currently my highest exposures, again, especially like given the context of the recent batch we've been doing, obviously, the DeMario Douglas, the Jalen Tolbert, the Hunter Henrys of the world I had high exposure to going into this batch of slows. But as of late, I mean, if we're just talking about, let me go to a ranking so I can kind of get a fresh note. Okay, wide receiver. I mean, okay, Nico Collins
I'll tell you mine if you want.
I'm trying to think of the specifics of the players that I've been clicking because I've kind of just been making the picks on the clock. But I mean, just looking at the rankings list right now, anytime Nico Collins falls past like the 204, the 205, I've been clicking that button because it's pretty simple to me. He's a guy that I'd be willing to take in the early portion of the second. He's a guy who I think whose ADP by the end of July, start of August could very well be the 13th, 14th, 15th overall player. I do feel like once you get Drake London off the board, Nico Collins sooner rather than later will usurp Brandon Ayuk, will usurp Chris Olave in terms of ADP. So getting exposure now when you compare him with, your CeeDee Lamb, your Tyreek Hill, those type of teams, I feel like is going to be a nice little leverage once you look back in August and think, hey, instead of the CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins mixtures, I'm now getting, Marvin Harrison Jr. plus Nico Collins.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I've been clicking a lot of these like round 8 to 10 running backs, the Zamir White, Tajay Spears, kind of Chase Brown, even like into like round 10, 11. I've been taking Zeke a decent amount. I don't know. I just look at those profiles. I'm like, I would have hated these guys 5 years ago. The only difference is now I'm getting them at a point where if they return a 14 point per game season, I'm going to be in a really good spot with those type of guys. So Spicy, let's get into this draft. We'll hit the yes button on the old wish to enter Best Ball Mania 5 if you guys want to join. Of course, go to the main lobby, hit Best Ball Mania 5. It's a $25 entry. And if you are new to Underdog Fantasy, I will drop the link in the chat to join over on Underdog Fantasy. Using the promo code FSE, you will get $250 in bonus cash. You'll also get a special pick'em entry to use right away. And our redraft guide will be coming out a week from today. So if you guys want our full redraft draft guide, our Dynasty rookie draft guide, and all of those rookie film breakdowns as well, you'll get an email from Underdog once you sign up using our promo code and deposit $10, and you'll get all of that stuff for free as a thank you for signing up with our code. And of course, you can do all these drafts with us.
Yeah, sorry. The other one I actually do want to mention, because you put up the running back comment, right? The other one I've been clicking a little bit has been Najee once he falls a little bit. I've noticed Najee at times can fall to the 90, 95 area. And again, I'll mix up who I want between him and Warren. I kind of, have a 50-50 type of selection between those guys. But it almost feels like you said, the Najee Harris profile of the volume that he should be receiving usually would be available, 4th, 5th round, which I would say, stay away from him there. But once you get to the late round 8, early round 9 portion, especially in highly wide receiver constructed teams, if you go with 5 wide receivers in your first 7 or 8 picks, getting a guy like Najee for your early season, and then spiking in some upside running backs like Benson, like Tajay Spears, Blake Corum, Chase Brown, a couple of those higher upside profiles later on is a kind of a nice mixture that I like. So Najee Harris early season, some of that youth, some of that, explosiveness you can get on in the round 12, round 13 areas. Specifically, Chase Brown has been a really nice value.
Yeah, Chase Brown's one that I've been hitting a lot. And I mean, Tom kind of asked us a kind of similar question to what you kind of just proposed, is like, how close would you say the ADP is on Underdog versus like managed leagues? And I would say the biggest difference will probably be players like Najee Harris and Zamir White going a lot higher in managed league formats. And that's why I'm getting my exposure in best ball where they're inexpensive. And again, the other thing too that I really want to hammer home about Underdog Fantasy is as close as your league format is to Underdog's league scoring, the better Underdog drafts will prepare you. So if you play in a 3 wide receiver start league, Underdog drafts will be a great way for you to get practice for those leagues versus if you play in a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, full PPR or standard league, God forbid, you're probably not getting as much value to your dollar when you sign up and deposit and play underdog drafts, because your league format's going to be a lot different than that of an underdog draft. But a lot of my leagues that I'm in are very similar to underdog scoring. They're full PPR, 3 wide receiver start, that kind of thing. So doing underdog drafts helps me really recognize when, the sharps are taking a player at a certain point, and then, casual league mates are drafting those players at different points.
And we've actually been planning out a video, so stay tuned. The spoiler I'll give, I'm not going to indulge too much information for you guys, but the video that we're basically planning is comparing your underdog, home league, dynasty ADP, and kind of explaining the connection between these formats, and also in terms of the valuation, some of the biggest market inefficiencies.
Yeah, no, it's something that absolutely factors in. Like, I think I'm preparing a dynasty trade targets by every position video, because we just did an update to our dynasty trade value chart, which of course is available on Flock Fantasy. One of the biggest mispriced players on the market right now is David Montgomery, because you look at his dynasty ADP and it's like top 22, top 23 dynasty running back, and he's way cheaper than Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon in redraft. And he's like a 27-year-old running back and a 28.5-year-old running back. There's no difference. They're old running backs. They don't gain value either way. So you're better off taking the guys with better redraft projections over a guy like David Montgomery, just because he's like a year younger than those guys. And also too, I mean, like, if he only has 1,000 total yards and 8 touchdowns and catches 25 passes, he's going to be like a 10-point per game player. And he's going to be completely non-needle moving whatsoever. So, and I expect Jahmyr Gibbs to take a step forward from a workload perspective. So for me, I just look at David Montgomery as the definition of drafting last year's league winners, as opposed to drafting for floor guys that are going to be good this year.
Drafting for floor, can you tell me with certainty that David Montgomery will outscore James Conner this year, and look at the difference in their market valuation in Dynasty?
Yeah, I cannot. We are on the clock right now. Do we want to grab AJ Brown, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson?
I'm cool with any of those receivers. My vote would be Garrett.
Yeah, mine would be as well. So let's grab Wilson.
Yeah, I dig that. Because my second would be Puka, and I know you're not going with Puka. So, I mean, we can both agree on Garrett. That's all.
Yeah, my second would be AJ. So that's fine with me.
Of
Gibbs,
course, we end up with 109
by the projection, I think structurally he's a very hard click, though, is the thing. Yeah, and Fantasy Football 101 said he's drafting the $1 million or $1.5
That's Giga Chad. I'm pretty sure that's Giga Chad. He said it before. That's fucking comedy. I still remember a couple streams ago. I'm like, this fucking Giga Chad guy's in all of my drafts and it's always fucking sniping me. And of course he's in the stream.
He's classic. Hilarious. He's an absolute classic.
That is hilarious.
How do you like this area of the draft? Do you like drafting these, like double tapping these wide receivers, or would you much rather have to me, I think this is the worst area of the draft this year, personally.
I'm not going to lie. It's going to sound very, very how do I explain this? The level analysis here is pretty simple. The earlier I can pick this year, the better. Is how I describe it, because the third round difference is night and day. The 301 versus the 312 is night and day. And not to mention, like I said, I love the top 3 picks this year because you can double tap that 2-3 turn. And then, the mid first round's not that bad either.
Can we stop you really quick? We're on the clock. Do we want to grab Collins here?
I'm perfect. I will never turn down a Nico Collins. I'm cool with that.
Probably what you were just going to make reference to is the difference between Nico Collins and the guys going late in the second round is not a huge difference. The difference between those type of players they've been bigger in recent years. Like, we've had better early second round picks in recent years. Whereas, and last year was a perfect example of that, I think, where I didn't mind picking at the end of the first round last year, because you could double tap a CD Lamb, a Monra start or whatever.
CD and AJ, multiple drafts.
Yeah. Like, you were in a pretty good spot there. Whereas this year, like, I love Ayuk. I love Harrison. I love Gibbs. It's like, and Gibbs in a managed league, he's not going to go this late. He'll probably go in the first round. Yeah. Unless you're getting like that, the 112 where you can double tap 2 maybe falling ADP values. I think having the turn pick, 108 to 111 is not great.
Yeah, I agree. Which also, again, because I would say, like you said, the round 2 wide receivers are pretty flat across the board. And then once you get to round 3, you notice a separate drop as well. That's kind of why I'm on the proponent. A little bit, out of the question here, but that's why I've been of the proponent that I need to take CeeDee Lamb at the 101, specifically because I can take one of those receivers I still like, pair that with a guy like Devon Achane, and then knowing inherently at the 4 or 5 turn, the best probably comparable players are maybe like the Lamar Andrews stack or maybe an Isaiah Pacheco. And then the wide receivers you see there are like, you taking Terry McLaurin or Hollywood Brown at the 501?
Yeah, I think part of the regrettable thing that, so I traded down in my home league. I had the 103 initially and I traded down to 106. I feel good about that decision because I like being in the middle of the round this year. And I think in home redraft league settings, you get a nice little lineup of value at each position. I will say though, the 4-5 turn on underdog is way worse than it is in home leagues. I think there's a very good chance you'll get some solid wide receiver projections in home leagues at the 4-5 turn. So that's the thing I worry about a little bit, is that I may have sacrificed, let's say, a Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans and Isaiah Pacheco start in a managed home league versus, and on the way back in the 4-5 turn, I could have still gotten solid wide receiver talents, like maybe even probably not like a T Higgins type, but like in home leagues is Zay Flowers and Tank Dell and those type of guys. They'll be 4-5 turn picks. They're not going to be like 3-4 turn picks or mid thirds like they are on underdog now.
Yeah, for sure. So we do have a couple questions we can get into before our next pick. How long does it take once we submit a one-on-one session for one of y'all to hear back? So in terms of the team reviews, we are all caught up aside from one.
I think he submitted a coaching session.
Coaching submission.
YDD, if you booked a coaching session, I'll get back to you as soon as the stream is done. If you're just using like your annual Motherflocker coaching session, then we can just definitely get that booked for you. But if you actually are looking to like book it and like pay for it separately, you actually have to pay before I'll get back to you and do that. But I'll double check. Maybe you did pay and I just missed the notification or whatever.
And then in terms of actually scheduling a time and day, usually how we do it, if you guys have us on social, either Twitter or Discord, you can DM us there. If not, then we usually handle you guys via email. So whichever is more convenient for you guys. Like, for example, a couple that I do quite often, a couple recurring one-on-ones that I do, it's mostly just like, oh, I'll send them the link in Twitter. I'll send them the link in Discord because we have that communication already built there.
Yeah, for sure. IDUP
classic, Saquon third round. Holy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Saquon that late is wild. 12-team Superflex Dynasty start 10 traded JSN late second in 26 and an early third for Devontae Smith in a mid fourth. I think I'm probably okay with that move to get a sure thing with Devontae Smith there, but I mean, it would depend on your depth and kind of how your wide receiver core is looking at that point, but it's a pretty solid move. So we're back on the clock here. I think getting Diggs at this spot would be not bad. Knowing that we could double stack it up with CJ Stroud, I think that would be my preference. I mean,
I think that's where we have to go, knowing the wide receivers are pretty flat here.
Exactly. It's possible also that we could mega onslaught the Texans if Tank Dell falls back to us.
You know where
I've never actually been able to pull off before. So
hear me out. I know it sounds weird, but listen with me for a second. If Tank Dell goes, would you be opposed to taking Andrews?
No, because you have week 17 correlation with the Texans there.
Early fourth seems a little weird.
Who else is on the board, honestly. I think that would be my answer to that.
For sure. Again, let's just hope that Tank Dell falls. I've never actually seen a triple onslaught because I usually see like Nico Collins and Diggs may go at the 2-3 turn. But typically speaking, if you take Nico Collins early, you usually don't get both Diggs and Dell falling. So you guys on the turn are picking before us and want to do us a solid and leave us a nice little texture. I wouldn't complain.
Yeah. Are you ready for CJ Stroud to get sniped 10 picks ahead of ADP after we do this?
I would cry. I would cry.
Dude, Stroud, I found, is the type of guy, though, that doesn't usually get drafted ahead of ADP. Like, only the teams that have Tank Dell, Diggs, and Nico usually, I've noticed.
Now, with that being said, we do see the Tank Dell guy go with him at the 312 there, so let's keep that in the back of the mind.
Yeah, we'll probably have to take Stroud, most likely, with our next selection, potentially, or maybe the one after that. I think Kelsey's a pretty easy click for me here. I'd be okay with Laporta too if you want to mix him in. To me, I think the tight
can't go Andrews over them.
Value.
Yeah, I can't go Andrews over them. I'd probably let's get Kelsey. Fuck it. I'm down for either. Your call.
Yeah, I'd grab a lot of Kelsey. I know it's like, oh man, I grabbed this guy so much, but I do firmly believe that he will be way more expensive a month from now. So I'm getting my shares of Kelsey now. I think that once the casuals start drafting on this platform, Travis Kelsey will be steamed to a 2-3 turn pick. And
it does
I
open
have
up
like
a
a massive bag of him
too.
already, and I'll just not draft him once he's that expensive.
The underrated part too is it does open up a falling Mahomes value. I've seen Mahomes at times fall to the 5th. Again, maybe unlikely because one of the guys at that 4 or 5 turn might opt for a Mahomes Hollywood Brown click, but because we grabbed Kelsey here, it incentivizes a Mahomes fall more often than not, right?
Yeah.
So,
Also, Tom says, y'all please hammer the like button to help the gents. Appreciate that. Ambiguity says, do you guys usually respond to comments in the Discord outside of trade channels? If you need a response from us,
ways
feel
to
free to
DM
tag us
us.
in it.
Yeah. Or tag
And then
us.
also we do have channels where like we get notifications for them, like the Tone Setters channel and the ones that are for Flock subscribers who used our code. We will respond for sure in those channels. But if you're just in like FSE general, just like talking shop with some people, I am not likely to respond in that channel unless you tag me.
And I'll tell you right now, the best way to reach us is to DM us, to be honest, because even sometimes when you're logged in on PC, the notifications are inconsistent on Discord versus if you DM us straight up, it's going to be easier for us. Not to mention, if we see you're in the Discord, we see you're an FSC mother flocker, we're much more likely to get you where you need to go.
Yeah, and if you are a mother flocker, you get to add us as a friend on Discord, so you can DM us anytime you want there. Braden says, thoughts on Trey Benson in best ball? He's been, I nearly mentioned him off the top when I said a guy that I've been clicking very often because I think I get the thesis why people are just like really in on James Conner. Like it totally makes sense to me.
I like both.
I like both of them too. If you need an early season play, a guy that can, if you went a 0 RB and he's your first running back or he's your second running back, or you drafted Jonathan Brooks already and you need a guy that has some early season appeal. I like James Conner, but don't get it twisted about James Conner. He's over the age and touch apex, dealt with injuries last year, has dealt with injuries in the past. And Trey Benson was my RB1 heading into the rookie class. I very much think that we could get a bog standard. James Conner's a starter for the first 4 games of the year, deals with a minor injury, and it's Trey Benson's backfield beyond that point. Like I do think that's how it's going to play itself out. And in a format like Best Ball Mania 5 is, where week 17 is essentially all that matters in terms of where the money is, I want the guy with the higher upside, and Trey Benson's the perfect guy to tack on to a running back build where you already have like, say, 2 starters. Let's say you grab Isaiah Pacheco and you grab Zamir White in the 9th round, and round 10 comes around and you grab Trey Benson to tack on some upside to that build. I think he's the perfect guy to do that with because he has a lot of late season upside. But again, it's dependent on the rest of your team with when I draft Trey Benson. And also if you have any Rams or Cardinals, he makes a lot of sense.
By the way, can you check the overall board, Spicy? Because I've seen a pretty interesting texture that's been available here. Yeah, like Lamar and Andrews are falling.
Yeah, Andrews just went
there. Yeah, which again isn't the worst. I'm good with Lamar or Mahomes if they fall.
Yeah, if Mahomes falls, I think he's got to be the pick for us.
I agree, but also, yeah, Lamar does go there. So hopefully, I mean, Giga Chad, you're in the stream. I'd be
okay with Jacobs too if he's the best available player. There goes Godwin.
Yeah, I'm cool with either that fall here. Mahomes would be the clear pick.
Yeah,
here,
this is Pat
Mahomes,
for sure. It's a nice. Do we have any of the? Okay, we do have Worthy still on the board. So if you want to star Worthy
and Rice,
yeah, Rice is still there too. But I'm more in on Worthy as
100%. But I'm saying like worst case scenario, if we do get sniped on Worthy, you can backdoor Rice, or you could just go with the mini stack and play the Houston correlation and maybe grab like a Bateman or something later on for the week 17.
Yeah, I also just don't mind the idea of grabbing a running back value to anchor our build a little bit if Worthy goes. I think I would actually prefer that as opposed to taking Rice. Like, assuming that James Cook or Mixon falls back to us, I would be okay taking those guys over.
I'm cool with that.
Because we already have a Houston kind of bet built out, right? I mean, we probably maybe fucked up a little bit by taking Mahomes because we're not probably going bully quarterback and taking.
I'm cool missing out. I'm cool missing out on Stroud because we've already made the bet on the Houston offense, and then we also get some more upside in Week 17, knowing the Kelsey Mahomes there. So I honestly don't even hate just going with the double correlation, even without the quarterback there.
Yeah, and who knows, mate? Like I've seen Stroud fall a lot. Like if we punt him past our next pick, like who's to say he doesn't fall back 15 picks past ADP? Like I've seen it happen with Stroud before, where the Collins and Diggs people punt him to the next pick.
Actually, I've done this in one of the slows that we're in. So prime example, I believe it was actually starting Collins, Diggs, Kelsey on my team. Mahomes fell to my next pick, so I took Mahomes. The next pick, I could have taken Stroud, but I punted him back, and he ended up falling 15 plus picks after ADP. So at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't want to take a second quarterback early, but I'm getting such a unique ADP texture and also have the correlation where I can take Mahomes and Stroud, play their weeks offset, and then I don't have to worry about drafting a single other quarterback the rest of the draft either. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, no, Stroud is an interesting Jenga piece because of how expensive his pass catchers are. So Worthy's the easy pick for us here, obviously, because we can now double stack Mahomes up with the upside that he has. So looks like we're going 0 RB in this draft, and I'm not gonna lie, like I love how this one's shaping up. We got only good offenses, really. I guess the Jets are the only real wild card there that we're exposed to. And yeah, I feel good that come later in the draft, we'll be able to hammer out some running back archetypes that we feel good about too.
For sure. So we left off, I believe. How would you say ADP is? Oh, you already answered that.
Yep. Yeah, I got it down here. IDub says, what would you add to JSN for DJ Moore in Dynasty? I actually kind of like JSN this year, to be honest. Like I kind of like his ability to climb a bit in value. So at most, I'd probably just be willing to add a second rounder.
Yeah, like a mid projected too. I would say is probably the most.
Will you guys enter a big dog this year? I think I'm definitely so. I mean, I don't know if this has been announced yet, but we are all going to be meeting up with Mason and the rest of the people from the site in mid-August. I would 100% be down to stream a high-stakes draft while we're there. We're going to be, like, mid-August, we are going to be just literally firing out the content together while we're all in person together. So a big dog, doing a big dog together would be really fun, I think.
Yeah, we got some big plans here. I'm really excited. I'm not going to lie.
Spicy in the chat goes, where are you guys going? And I just told him where we'll be, which is of course near him and where Mason lives. So
we can't really say much more yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else, but there is plans to potentially do some other things while we're there. I'll just that. IDUP says, would you trade a mid to late one for Ramondre and Montgomery? Probably not. I would rather just buy Montgomery or just buy Ramondre, given that I just like rinsed Montgomery for a couple minutes there. And if you can get Ramondre for an early second or something like that, I would rather do that than pay a mid one for both guys, because I don't really think if you're going to pay a mid first for a running back, I want one needle mover, not two guys that I can use. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, I'd rather just buy JT for that mid one if that's what you can do.
Yes, sir. We got Joel in the chat. Got it. So 2 flex PPRs pretty close then. Thanks. Anytime. I'm drafting the $1.5 million lineup here. Yeah, good luck, brother. Good luck. Good chat in the chat, baby. I'll be damned. Was just watching yesterday's video because work is slow. Great to see you fellas. Appreciate that, Bart. Appreciate it. If you guys are unfamiliar with the video yesterday, I believe that was the wide receiver rankings, right?
Yeah. So we went through and we talked for like over an hour basically on the 2025 wide receiver class, going through kind of their model comparisons as well as what we saw from them on film. And it should give you guys a good insight if you're dynasty players with a lot of 2025 firsts or whatever. Definitely something that you're going to want to watch and keep track of too. I mean, I saw the deep dive on the dynasty mode in College Football 25 today, which also looks like that game looks like it's going to be unbelievable. I'm kind of giving up on Madden because I'm so sick of it being pay to win. But that EA game, the college football game, looks like one I'm gonna have to cop here. So
I don't blame.
Do we want to grab an anchor running back with Stevenson here?
Yes, absolutely. Colin just broke our heart there, though.
Yeah, that is crazy. We actually almost did just get the bully quarterback to fall back to us.
I mean, we take it. We did need an anchor running back.
He's the one who took Dell, though. I'm pretty sure.
No, he's not. Check the team. Oh, there you called it. Wow.
I did call it. I told you to charge your camera, and you didn't listen. Yeah. We'll put Spicy and Danny in the back seat. I'll just kind of vamp for a bit here. We do have some questions here. Let me go through. Could you briefly explain the profitability of these underdog drafts? I've never done them until this year, and I'm curious if you see a lot of green from the past year. So I was actually pretty profitable last year, but I will say it's worth noting that last year's contest structure was a lot different. I max entered BBM4, and there was a lot of regular season prizes so that you could be more profitable. This year is much more like, hey, Best Ball Mania 5, if you're looking for a plus EV contest to just, make 50% ROI or 25% ROI on your entries, probably not the contest for you. You're probably better off doing the smaller field tournaments like the Dalmatian or the Greyhound or some of the mini Schnauzers that are going on right now are like 20 entry max type of tournaments. Those are better off for like if you're just trying to do an ROI type of thing. But if you're looking for, hey, I'll spend $200, 8 entries, and I got a chance at $1.5 million, that's what Best Ball Mania 5 is for. Like if you're looking for the big payout on a little bit of money, that's why you would do Best Ball Mania 5. But again, I'd say profitability wise, if you're looking to just make a profit, you're better off doing cash drafts on Underdog because you could just do regular 12-person drafts or smaller field tournaments. Maybe if you have a big bankroll too, like the Big Dog and like some of the other larger entry tournaments are solid as well. So I think we're probably best off punting wide receiver here because I just think it's a terrible board. I think Jonathan Brooks makes a ton of sense for our team, knowing that we want some late season upside at running back because our anchors are at quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end so far. So I think I'm going to roll with Brooks because I don't have Danny's opinion here, but I don't think he should have too much of a problem with that selection. Hopefully he's back for the next one. What do we have here? Can you explain different builds, i.e. 6 wide receivers, 8 running backs, etc.? I'm studying best ball for fun, but I only did 3 drafts last year and just about doubled my entries. So optimal roster construction, it all depends on where you spent your capital. So if you spend early capital on wide receiver like we did in this draft, you're probably better off capping it at 7 or 8 wide receivers maximum versus running backs. If you spend, say, Bijan and Jonathan Taylor are your first 2 picks, you're better off capping it at 4 or 5 running backs. So I can definitely put out a video on like ideal roster construction, and there's tons of research on this topic. Like Mike Leone from Establish the Run does an incredible research on this, runs the Sims and, takes the roster construction that was in the finals last year and kind of the optimal way to play things. I would just say as a general rule, if you spend early capital at quarterback, at tight end, at running back, at wide receiver, you want to allocate your positional slots in other directions. Like if you draft an elite quarterback like Mahomes, ideally you want to cap it off at 2 quarterbacks and maybe cap off the second quarterback in the top 20 or so that you're fine with, say, a Mahomes, Justin Herbert, or a Travis Kelce and Dallas Goedert or something like that. To me, that's how I like to play the onesies. And then at running back and wide receiver, it's kind of just, where did I spend my capital? I spend it early at running back, early at wide receiver. If I spent it early at wide receiver, I'm probably going 7 wide receivers, maybe 8 at most, and then I'll throw my bullets at other positions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't know what you were saying, but I came in halfway.
What's up?
Sorry, I heard half of that. It sounded good. I also saw the Jonathan Brooks pick, and I was basically about to type in the chat, go Brooks. So good.
Yeah, I was thinking Swift was the other maybe consideration there.
I have so much Swift in my own drafts.
Yeah, I do too. So that's why I went with Brooks there. How much of a bump do you think Danny Dimes gets from Hard Knocks? I don't know. Probably none. If anything, he might lose some, because I saw a clip on Twitter today of I think it was the owner or the GM saying like, Saquon is a $12 million running back. We need to see
your
what
$40
Daniel
million
Jones has, basically, like, because he's a $40 million per year quarterback. How about we just like don't give him this easy of a job?
Yeah,
and I was like,
basically the vibe was when you pay a quarterback $40 million, you also can't turn around and hand the running back $12 million. Is basically how he implied it.
Yeah, which I mean, maybe you shouldn't have paid your mid quarterback, but
I mean, like, I understand the thesis because you got to know if he's the right guy. By the way, do we want to go to receiver here for build?
Yeah, I think texture wise it makes sense. I like Shakir at receiver. I also, again, we could play receiver in numbers and build an 8 wide receiver build with like dart throws at rookies. Like to me, I personally can't pass on Trey Benson here. Or I mean, if we want an earlier season play, we could take B-Rob too, but I think Benson makes more sense. I'll let you make the call.
I'll go Benson because, yeah, I mean, we could always add like Zeke and stuff like that later, so I'm not too opposed.
Yeah, like I've heard Karain and like a number of other people talk about the idea of the old reason. Yeah, the old reason why you would go hyper fragile was so that you could lock in your touches and, build a 3 or a 4 running back build and use your bullets elsewhere. But like the way the ADP dynamic is now, there's people experimenting with 4 running back builds where all 4 running backs came round 8 to 12, where they're like, I got guaranteed touches with all these guys, and the rest of my position groups are loaded. Like, I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying, like, you can get upside and touches in the range that we're drafting right now. So why would I reach on Khalil Shakir or any of those guys?
Yeah. And I mean, with that being said, I mean, we're not taking Mike Williams here. I'll scroll down a little bit, Spicy, see if there's any receivers worth it. Not entirely.
I'd be fine taking Cooks if you want to take him, but we could just take a running back again if you want to.
I like the next round of running backs better. Plus, I think Cooks is a type of guy that's going to see a rise soon. To be honest,
I'm fine going with Cooks here.
Hayden and Josh obviously just put out their sleeper wide receivers video. Brandon Cooks was on that. And I mean, you've heard my thoughts on the Cowboys receivers as a whole. Obviously, again, there's going to be bias. I'm a Cowboys fan. I get it. But when you're getting a top 5 to 10 offense, wide receiver 2 and 3 at 10th round and 18th/17th round price tags, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking into the summer in August and Brandon Cooks is going closer to where Jameson Williams is going, to be honest.
Yeah, no, if you told me straight, like I would rather have Cooks over JMO straight up, because I know, like, I get Cooks is old and like maybe he's washed or whatever, but like the way that the Cowboys players in general are priced is that Lamb is like legit going to have a 45% target share. Like,
it's literally,
and the running game is going to be unusable. That's how the offense is priced currently.
There is one player of the skill players getting selected within the first 7 rounds. 2 players being selected within the first 10 rounds, and everybody else is cheap as balls. Like, we're looking at, again, I love Dontavian Woods. I think he's a prime, potential candidate to break out in the receiving corps because it's ambiguous. However, there's 4 Green Bay wide receivers being selected where the wide receiver 2 in Dallas is going.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And we, like, I feel very confident in saying that he will be the wide receiver 2 in terms of like routes and targets, to be honest. Like, maybe Tolbert is fun and, give you some weeks or whatever. He's like an 18th round pick. So there's a reason he's going that low. Like, unless they trade for a wide receiver or sign somebody else or whatever, like, Cooks will be the number 2 wide receiver in 2 wide receiver sets.
The way I see it is, if you are anti Brandon Cooks, you better have 100% exposure to Jalen Tolbert versus also exactly. If you don't believe in Jalen Tolbert, you should have a good, healthy share of Brandon Cooks, because one of them is going to have a solid wide receiver 30+ projection.
Yeah, exactly. Joel says, had the 102, got Allen, traded my 211 and a first for 108 Jefferson, then traded JJ and a second for Amon-Ra, a first and a third. So essentially you got Josh Allen and Amon-Ra for 211 and a second, 12-team Superflex. Yeah, great job maneuvering the board, I guess. I mean, I don't actually totally agree with your initial move of trading 211 plus a first to go up to 108, but I think you salvaged it really well with the Amon-Ra trade there.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think if someone barely trades in Dynasty, they can win the ship? I mean, if they're just a goated drafter, they could definitely win the championship. It's harder because it's not like you can farm and backfill on the waiver wire like a lot of people in redraft leagues do. Like, there's tons of people who never trade in redraft leagues but are competitive every year because they're good drafters and they backfill on the waiver wire.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? In Dynasty, it's such a valuation game to the point where you have to understand certain value pockets, certain timings. Again, not to use a gaming term, but timings in the sense that understanding the peripherals are there for certain players buying in before they do break out versus at the same time, highly acclaimed players understanding when potentially the downfall is hitting to get out before you lose complete valuation on what you paid for them. So ultimately understanding that dynamic of when to buy, when to sell, accumulating value as a whole principle is how you get ahead in Dynasty. Again, people want to make the claim like, I'm just going to compete year in, year out because I'm a goated drafter and I'm just better than everybody in my league. But even if you're a better drafter than players in your league, you probably put yourself at a 10% advantage. The way you build a true dynasty roster, like, we're not talking about a dynasty roster in the sense like one of the 12 teams in your league. We're talking about like a dynasty roster in the sense that you can create a dynasty with that team. Majority of it's going to come from hitting on your trade valuations.
Absolutely. I would be okay.
We could grab Goddard as our second tight end.
We could grab Goddard as our second tight end if you want to.
Your call. I'm cool with him.
I wouldn't mind grabbing one more safe projection at wide receiver because we're going to want to swing a little bit with our other guys. Actually, you know what? Let's grab Goddard. Let's close off the tight end build because I think we've already invested a lot of capital in wide receiver so far. And I actually there's not really a huge difference to me from this point in the board at wide receiver beyond to the rest of the draft.
I'd agree. And a little implied note there, having the Cooks versus Goddard. Again, it's not much of a week 17 correlation, but if that game does shoot out, they make your lineup. Again, our main attributed stack would be with the Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs correlation and with the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. So having another little mini correlation there for a potentially high shooting game is nice.
Yeah, and the way it could play out in real time is what if in week 16, the Mahomes Kelce goes bonkers and then Mahomes Kelce is super high owned in week 17 and Goddard was the piece that you needed to beat out all the Kelce teams. But Mahomes still gets there because Worthy gets there or because he rushes touchdowns in or whatever the case is.
By the way, a Giga Chat said Bob's Fantasy. Is there a Bob's Fantasy in this room, Quick Spicy? I want to see what his team is building up because he said he's off his rocker. So I want to see where's Bob's Fantasy. Yeah, I see. Okay, so click onto that team. Let's see what he's doing here. Okay, so Chase Brown 24 picks out of ADP, Herbert 15 picks. Yeah, this is the classic. I haven't done too many drafts, Drafter.
Yeah. Do we want to grab? You want to grab a upside swing like Leggett here, maybe?
Cool with that. We do have Brooks too.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I guess we're kind of just making the bet that the Panthers will be better than people think. Yeah, I suppose with that move, it leaves us open to backdoor stack Bryce Young if we need to as well.
We could also grab a McMillan for the Week 17 cross.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think we will need to prioritize it back here. I agree because we're gonna need somebody with a little bit of early season appeal, knowing that we have Brooks and Benson as our RB2 and RB3. Unfortunately, we got Zeke making it back to us where our Goddard picks would have made a lot of sense, but
same with Dowdle too. Both of them got sniped.
Yeah,
those
we'll have to examine the running back board and see what's going on there
for sure. All right, please hammer the like button. Appreciate that. If you guys,
you're way behind on here. I got it. What do you think about Pickens for Wicks, Keenan in a third? I would rather have Pickens.
I would rather have Pickens as well. It's just kind of breaking the asset of Pickens into, again, I like Wicks. I think Keenan can be a productive piece, but if Wicks doesn't turn out and Keenan loses a ton of value after this year and Pickens has the type of year that he could, 1,100-yard receiver this past year, now a full focus on him potentially being as the number one, hence why he's going at that 3-4 turn. I think this could be the type of deal where if Pickens ends up being the wide receiver 13 in Dynasty after this year, you're going to be pretty regretful of.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. I won both my redraft and Dynasty last year, and I'd credit it completely to the trades I've made, as well as waiver pickups. Yeah, any redraft championship that I ever won, I made like 3 or 4 just absolutely elite trades. And same with Dynasty too. Like all the best rosters that I have in my Dynasty portfolio are built because I made some awesome trades, pretty much.
Amen. Yeah, same. I mean, we were talking a little bit about our Dynasty portfolios the other day, but if you guys did not watch our moves to make videos, we have some absolute monsters on the back end.
And I made the video 5 best and 5 worst trades I've ever made too, which I thought was a fun exercise. What up, Dan? Seabass in the chat. I like Pickens with the situation currently compared to Wicks, the amount of competition he has. If you're in a rebuild, take the third. I would say like it's still a bad trade even in a rebuild. Yeah, I would need at least a second rounder added to that Keenan and Wicks side to make that a competitive deal. And I would honestly,
if you're in a rebuild, why would you sell for Keenan?
Yeah, exactly. Like I would still prefer Pickens even in a rebuild with a 2 in that trade instead of a 3.
Like if I'm rebuilding and I really want to recoup capital, I would more rather move Pickens plus a third for Wicks and a first.
Yeah. Spicy, you want to open the board back up here? I just want to see what kind of backs we're looking at on the board. Man, not a whole lot of like early season hammers. We could just get by in numbers. We can grab Chuba maybe and just double handcuff Panthers potentially.
Do we want to do that though?
No, not right now. I think Wright actually makes the most sense for this pick.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, let's go Jalen Wright here, and hopefully we can grab some like early season production with. This is probably a 6 RB build, just given that we didn't spend a whole lot of capital at that position. We could probably close it off at 7 at wide receiver anyway, and we already have 2 tight ends. Other quarterback options that we can stack. Just go to our wide receivers really quick. I just want to make sure we have quarterback options to stack up. So obviously we can go Rodgers with our second quarterback. Dak's already gone. We have Mahomes already and Stroud's already gone. So Bryce Young and Rodgers are our stackable quarterback options that we have.
Yeah, no, I'm down. Where do we leave off?
I think Algier makes some sense potentially too with our next pick.
Cool with Algier. Cool with Algier for sure. I can't know where you left off here.
Okay, I'll find it. Yeah, that's where I was.
Here. Appreciate that, Matt. Appreciate it. Big shout out to Gallo. Hit a nice little round at WV the other day. That was a good time.
True.
Willow Valley. I don't know why I had to give it a little acronym, but hey.
Yeah. Bart says, thanks for answering the question. No problem.
Anytime,
why not get cameras that don't need batteries? That's a good idea, Cody. Maybe next camera upgrade, we will do that. That's probably a smart idea. Thanks, Bush. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I trust your data and quantitative approach. Yeah, I would definitely love to do a roster construction video for those people that are new to Underdog and like are just getting into it, because I inherently kind of know a lot of what to do roster construction wise, but it's actually because a lot of other people have done the research on it. Like you guys know, our primary focus here is generally to like win you championships in your redraft and dynasty leagues, as much as we play best ball. And we of course want you guys to play best ball too, because it's a great way to get practice for your redraft leagues. There's like fantasy creators out there that are like only best ball analysts who do a ton of great research. And I don't really have the bandwidth to do the amount of research on best ball that I do on dynasty and redraft like I'm doing now. So do we want to handcuff it and grab Hubbard so we get some early season production, or do we want to grab another wide receiver maybe?
So how's your win? Oh my God.
I'd be fine grabbing Hubbard, honestly. I think that this backfield's going to want to run the football. This is maybe a bit of a galaxy brain pick. Like
I don't mind it.
I just think that if Brooks like is on PUP or something, we could get 6 games of Hubbard being the starting running back. You know what I mean?
You're not drafting them with the thesis that they're going to split 50-50, because that would invalidate the Brooks pick. It's more so, hey, maybe Brooks doesn't get the snaps right away. Hubbard gives you, RB2, RB3 utility. And then come, like you said, week 5, week 6, once Brooks gets a little bit more trust in the backfield, maybe there's a 2 to 3 week transition where it's a 50-50. And then by the back end of the season, week 8, week 9, Brooks becomes a 60-65% plus snap share guy. And if that's the case, you kind of get the validity, you kind of get the point equity from both of those picks. Hubbard, obviously, again, we're not planning the long-term season play with Hubbard, knowing it's a 14th round opportunity cost and knowing that it's solely for early season validity. But at the same time, once Benson's ready to cook, once Brooks is ready to take over the backfield, again, our, I believe, 8th and 9th round picks, if they start get started and get going, like we're looking at a team that's already structurally sound at wide receiver with an advantage at both quarterback and tight end. So it's really just playing the early season type of work Hubbard could get and mixing it in with the late season upside of the 3 rookie backs. Actually, I mean, pointing Jalen Wright into that as well.
Yeah. And what happens if chaos strikes, as it often does in the NFL season, and week 1 to 4, Chuba's the guy that you needed, and then Jonathan Brooks takes over the backfield, but week 17, Jonathan Brooks is out. And Chuba Hubbard is a week 17 play for us also, in addition to being an early season play for us. Like there's certain backfields. Do I want to invest 2 running backs of the Carolina Panthers? Usually, probably not. But I do think that this offense will want to use a starting running back, like a clear starting running back. So if one guy's kind of the handcuff, the early season guy, and then they kind of flip-flop injuries potentially throughout the year, it's possible that they're either advance rate guys, or maybe even one of these guys is like the clear lead back week 17. It might even be a unique player to advance to that point too. If Hubbard is just a complete zero the whole year and Brooks is just the guy the entire season, and then come week 15 or whatever, Brooks gets injured, it's possible that you play the advance rate through Brooks and then you play the week 17 correlation through Hubbard there. So maybe it's just copium on our part, but regardless, we're talking through some of this stuff. I think we probably want to aim for potentially Aaron Rodgers with our pick here, because I think we're going to be too dicey at quarterback if we don't.
Same page. Now, for what it's worth, likely did go. I would have said likely potentially making it back to us would have been nice, but c'est la vie.
I mean, knowing that we already have the 2 Texans players, and there's tons of late round Baltimore plays that you can go. You can grab a
we have
Mitchell,
2 tight ends.
You can grab a Tez Walker.
I forgot
and we already have Goddard and Kelsey.
I forgot we got Goddard. That's my apology.
Plus, Rodgers opens us up to another backdoor late round player as well for wide receiver. We can grab like a Xavier Gibson or a Alan Lazard in the 18th round or something like that. Malachi Corley potentially still on the board, or he might be off. He's probably off the board.
I was more so saying it in the sense that if we could have gotten both, I forgot that we had gotten Goddard. So, I mean, losing likely there isn't going to be any type of needle mover for us anyways. We're chilling.
Yeah. I'm contractually obligated to let you know that this is a good J.K. Dobbins team as well.
I was just about to propose maybe a J.K. Dobbins share here. I've been grabbing him a lot more. I mean, I saw the you were referencing the Daniel Jeremiah clip. I was able to watch that through, and basically, again, obviously, injury optimism is sometimes a thing that will kill the overly optimistic people, a la us as fantasy players. But at the same time, when it's a 16th round opportunity cost, even if you miss the pick, who really cares? Like, who really cares?
Even if you miss the pick, quote unquote, I think in an offense that's going to be this run heavy, like you missing on it, and like let's say Gus Edwards is the primary back that you needed from this option, or maybe it's Kamani Vidal or whatever. I think there's going to be a period of time where this is a 3-way timeshare, a 2-way timeshare, and Dobbins can have spike weeks just from that perspective. And McMillan actually went, which kind of sucked. But Dobbins to me makes a lot of sense for this team. I think we're probably done at running back now because that would be our sixth running back. And I think we should just be able to tack on 2 late round wide receivers here. Maybe a Tez Walker to give us some week 17 correlation. We can grab maybe an Alan Lazard or a Gibson with our 18th rounder, and we should be off and running.
Yeah, so Spicy from now on, literally just sort it by the orange, and we are good.
We are just going to be pissing it up.
Amen. Some piss boys in the chat. I mean, speaking
is there any other correlation pieces that we have on the board for us at wide receiver? If you want to just go back to the board here, Spicy, I just want to star anybody with correlation. I got the week 17 matchups up beside me here. So Tez Walker, star him because we obviously have correlation there.
Yep.
We do already have Brandon Cooks. So maybe Tolbert would make sense, but maybe not because I think betting on Cooks is probably inherently a bet against Tolbert, to be honest.
Wait, what? Sorry.
Cooks versus Tolbert. I think it's probably not.
Yeah, I mean,
those two up. I think that they're kind of hit uniquely at the expense of the other.
They're negatively correlated because again, somebody may argue, well, if CeeDee Lamb goes down, they would both have more validity. If CeeDee Lamb goes down, the offense is not a top 5 to 10 projection at that point. So you're just playing the cat and mouse game where it's like, oh, they could get more volume, but it's like, is that volume really actually going to be valuable if the offense as a whole is suffering because CeeDee Lamb is not on the field? Not necessarily. Again, like you said, more often than not, either paying off tremendously would come at the expense of the other. Whether it's, Brandon Cooks being the proven guy, Jalen Tolbert maybe being a little further behind in terms of development, or vice versa. Brandon Cooks, older receiver, aging, you would make the bet on Jalen Tolbert as a third receiver, potentially taking the lead.
Yeah. Also, can you search? I got 3 names that I think also make sense here. Trey Palmer. Because we have the Panthers.
I was about to suggest them to you too.
Yeah, Trey Palmer makes sense if he's available. If he didn't already go, okay, I know he's there. And then both Alan Lazard and Xavier Gibson because I'd like to double stack Rodgers, knowing that he's a pocket quarterback.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. One of those.
I think if we leave the draft with 2 of these players, we're probably fine at wide receiver there.
We could
there's
mix
probably
in
better
an OBJ
projections on the board, but I just think when you have 6 wide receivers already, you might as well just double stack.
Sorry, I said OBJ. It's actually the Bills that they play in week 17. I'm trying to think. Like, there's no Bills receiver that we're completely glossing over right now because the main 3 go early. But is there any?
I mean, if we want to take a Chase Claypool swing, we could, or a Mac Hollins swing.
I would rather Mac Hollins than Chase Claypool, but I'd probably rather
KJ Hamler.
God, yeah, I forgot they got KJ Hamler, Andy Isabella. Holy Christ, Justin.
What we could do is grab a Steelers wide receiver. Because we do have the Chiefs with the Mahomes Kelsey. But the question is, like, who do you grab?
I mean, I guess because we would have gotten sniped Roman Wilson by 2 picks there, too.
Yeah, he would have made sense. But, like, is there any Steelers receiver that even makes sense? Calvin Austin, I guess.
That's a decent shout. I mean, Van Jefferson's there, too. Quez Watkins. I don't want any of these players. Scotty Miller.
I'd rather take Quez Walker, to be honest, just to correlate with our use and stuff.
I'll go with that. If at that point, just give me Connor Hayward, baby.
I just think the players on the board just make more sense. Like, it would be great if they had correlation, but like, dude, like if Pickens is like down and there's like a receiver to own, like I'll take that L because I'm not going to be able to guess it correctly.
Yeah, for sure. Dynasty Superflex, Brock Purdy plus Malachi Corley for Will Levis and Nico Collins. I have CJ as my quarterback 1. So the way I break this down, Brock Purdy is a guy I have valued on that 3-4 turn. Let's make the pick real quick.
Tez Walker's the pick.
I have Purdy valued as a 3-4 turn type of player / mid-third. So around that area, give or take.
Yeah.
I have Nico Collins as a 4th or 5th rounder. Will Levis as a 6th or 7th rounder. Again, I'm talking off the cuff. I can check exactly where I have them ranked, but that's about where I remember them placing. To be honest,
I would easily take Levis and Nico here. I don't even have to look at where I have them ranked.
Yeah, no, I would too. I was just trying to give in the explanation to everybody who's questioning the thought process of how we got there. The way I break it down is if you're in a startup right now, Malachi Corley to me is like a 12th, 13th round valuation. And that's being pretty kind, to be honest. At that point, it's like, would you trade a 3rd and a 13th rounder in terms of startup valuation for a 4th rounder / 5th rounder and a 6th rounder, which is what I view Will Levis and Nico Collins. So I would also agree, especially because you have CJ Stroud, you do get the inherent stack upside with Nico Collins. If you can stomach being a little bit more volatile at quarterback, I don't mind making this move at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's outrageous to say that Will Levis, given the pass volume that he could expect to see this year, is valued higher than Brock Purdy a year from now.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I
Like,
definitely agree.
he'd obviously have to hit from like a real life standpoint. You have to look like a franchise quarterback, but if let's just say he's good, we know he's good, that we have that information. He would be a better projection than Purdy just because he's going to throw the ball a ton more based on the new offense that they have there. So
Gibson
I think Lazard makes the most sense, knowing that we
over
have
Gibson.
Rodgers and Lazard. Gibson scares me because I think he's just a special teamer, and I think Corley is the one going higher, and he has the like slot role kind of locked down. To me, I think Lazard is just the guy that could catch 7 touchdowns.
He could. Like I know Gibson got more. We can go Lazard if you want. I know Gibson.
Let's go Lazard. I think Lazard wasn't trying last year because Rodgers wasn't healthy. That's the narrative I'm clinging to. It's shower narrative.
The thing I'm worried about, again, maybe you're making the case too with the receiving ability, the return ability, that he's probably pigeonholed for that. Also, I will switch us right now.
Yeah. So Spicy is just resetting his computer real quick, and then we will queue up another draft. So we'll just answer some questions in the meantime, just to give you guys a heads up.
The thing with Gibson is we were seeing him become a 50+% snap share from week 9 on last year. And again, like you said, you can make the case that with Corley there, maybe they wanted to upgrade that role, knowing Lazard more of a size, power slot type of wide receiver versus Gibson, more of your, jitterbug yards after catch guy. Obviously, Malachi Corley falling into the latter category. So in terms of a stylistic set of receivers, plugging Lazard plus Corley next to Garrett Wilson would make more sense. The thing is, I don't think it's a non-zero chance that Xavier Gibson, at least earlier in the season, can work ahead of Corley.
I don't think it's a non-zero chance either, but Mike Williams is also coming off of an ACL tear, and Allen Lazard might be a starter at the beginning of the year. And
that's what our
team was constructed. Having a guy that could give us some early weeks might not be the worst thing. Not to mention, too, Lazard has a way higher team investment with the contract that he signed with the team than Gibson does, who was a UDFA, and pretty much. I think he's also just like a special teamer. Like I think he's a solid player, but I think he's more of like a 4th, 5th receiver who plays special teams. He's as a talent.
Like I would say the floor projection, I agree, would probably be Lazard. If you're playing a ceiling projection, probably Gibson, because obviously he's got fresh legs. So I think that's a fair assessment, especially knowing that in our final receiver spot, we may want some more upside, or may want some more stability there. I don't mind that. Tolbert, I completely disagree with this, because everything that we're hearing from the Cowboys camp is that they view Jalen Tolbert as their starting number 3 wide receiver, and they view him as that consistent outside boundary receiver when CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks are on the field in an 11 personnel set. So everything we're hearing from the Cowboys is that they believe Jalen Tolbert's ready to take the step. And personally, as a Cowboys fan, contextually watching how Jalen Tolbert progressed last year, he was straight up a lot better down the stretch than what Michael Gallup presented. Now, people are going to argue, well, Michael Gallup, he wasn't really efficient. He was still a starting X wide receiver for the Cowboys last year. Even if Jalen Tolbert isn't the most efficient player this year, getting a starting caliber X receiver on that team in the 18th round, I'm not passing up on every single time. Like, I understand Flournoy, decent athletic profile. He was also a late day 3 pick. I would be shocked if, knowing how the Cowboys operate, that he would actually operate ahead of Jalen Tolbert, especially knowing the fact that the front office is already kind of getting ridiculed. Like, oh, like, what are you doing from a investment standpoint? Knowing how they think, I would seriously doubt that they would bench their 3rd round pick for a guy that they picked in the 6th round. Again, it's a flawed process, I understand, but at the same time, seeing how Jalen Tolbert progressed, I'm more optimistic about it. So again, maybe Flournoy ends up working in as a backup to Jalen Tolbert, and maybe down the stretch outperforms him, but at least early season, it will be Tolbert's job to lose.
I think the thing I worry about with the Cowboys, and this is kind of a gal brain take or whatever, but mid-season, if Courtland Sutton's available via trade or something, I could see the Cowboys pulling the trigger on a receiver.
Especially if it's like a 4th or 5th round
either before the year, during training camp, trade deadline, something like that. That's why I'm just like not interested in drafting Tolbert for that reason. It's more that I'm just going to draft Cooks because I feel confident in his role.
And I think that's a very fair assessment. At the end of the day, if Tolbert's not doing the job at the X receiver spot, the Broncos are trying to retool, and they say, hey, like, Sutton's not happy here. Fuck it. We'll sell him for a 4th or 5th round pick. The Cowboys would be the type of team that would say, hey, take our 5th round pick right now. And again, the Cowboys aren't like crazy high spenders, but they're frugal spenders in the sense that if they view something that could fit a need, which an X receiver may be the case if Tolbert's not progressing the way I think he can, 5th round pick for Courtland Sutton in a contending window, like you do that every single time from their position.
Yeah. So looking at the team that we just drafted, we got Mahomes stacked up with Travis Kelce, their quarterback and tight end. We got Aaron Rodgers, our 2nd quarterback. Running back core is a bit of a mixed bag. We got some early season plays with Ramondre Stevenson. We kind of feel good about his role as our lead back there. Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks. We kind of explained the thesis of why we drafted both of those guys. Trey Benson and Jalen Wright, obviously late season upside plays. We are going to need this wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end core to carry us a little bit. At running back, J.K. Dobbins maybe gives us some early season production as well. Garrett Wilson, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Xavier Worthy, Brandon Cooks, Xavier Legette, Devontae Walker, and Alan Lazard for some correlation there at the end. And then Dallas Goedert is our second tight end to go along with Travis Kelce there. So this is the type of team where you just clench your ass and hope that it advances, because I think that's if you do advance a team like this, you got a lot of late season plays that make a lot of sense there. So we're going to enter another draft here. Again, if you guys do want to join the draft, go to the NFL homepage here on Underdog Fantasy, go to Ball Mania 5, just like Spicy Hot's going to do here, and then enter the draft as we enter it, 30 seconds per pick, of course, and you will probably get put in the draft with us. And again, if you guys are new to Underdog, of course, promo code FSC when you sign up for $250 in bonus cash and a special pick'em with both of our draft guides for free when you sign up with a $10 deposit. So wait for 9 people. Hopefully we get a higher pick here. I hope we're not picking at the end of the first round again.
Braden, my question before anything is, what did you pay for him and what's the roster settings?
Yeah, so I'm a big Freiermuth guy in Dynasty, but yeah, I would say what did you
mid tight end 2 production?
I'm just going to assume you paid like a mid second because that's about what he's worth. My thoughts on his outlook after having a disappointing year 3 is that I saw a stat. Somebody put this out that it was like to be a top 7 or 8 tight end in fantasy year over year. It's like 100% of the time they're a first or second target on their offense. And I feel very confident that Pat Freiermuth will be the second target on the Pittsburgh Steelers because I'm not a huge Roman Wilson guy. I don't really believe in anything else that they got going on in Pittsburgh. Of course, if they trade for Ayuk or something, that would obviously put a wrench in things. But for Freiermuth right now, I think that he is very clearly the second best target earner behind George Pickens. And maybe even like in terms of just pure targets, like I wouldn't even be shocked if he out-targeted George Pickens, to be honest, because he has shown the ability to command 20% plus target share in this point in his NFL career. And Russell Wilson, again, older quarterback, just throwing over the middle of the field to the easy target. It wouldn't shock me if the Steelers are
that's the narrative that I will dispel. Russell Wilson over the middle of the field just doesn't happen.
No, it probably doesn't. You're right. But I don't know. I look at this offense. It's going to be a boring 7-win team or 8-win team, or maybe they keep the Tomlin narrative up and they win 9 games or whatever. Would it shock us at all if like we're just like plug your nose and draft Pat Freiermuth because he finishes tight end 6 in points per game?
I don't think he finishes tight end 6.
I think he absolutely could, man. I don't see a huge difference between Pat Freiermuth and, you know, David Njoku, for example.
Oh, I see a big difference.
I think Njoku's more athletic. I think he's more interesting.
Much better player.
I don't think he's a much better player.
Much better player.
I don't think he's a much better player. I think that Freiermuth is a great player. It's nothing against Njoku. I just think Freiermuth is good.
He's solid, but Njoku's a legitimate potential top 5 talent.
He's Cole Kmet, man. He's better than Cole Kmet.
He's solid, sure, but I mean, he's probably like talent-wise, what, the 13th or 14th best tight end in the league?
I'd probably rank
optimistic,
like maybe a bit higher than that, or even about that range. But again, if he's the 13th or 14th best talent,
I think Njoku's a fringe top 5 talent. I think straight up, Njoku's a fringe top 5 talent.
Maybe, but he has other target earners on his team that he'd have to compete with, and his quarterback play is just as shaky as Pittsburgh's.
I feel a lot better about the Predator than I do Russell Wilson.
I don't know. I mean, both of them are pretty big question marks this year. Talk to me as this Jalen Brooks guy. So I can talk to you about Jalen Brooks. The one thing I know about Jalen Brooks, he's the single worst prospect in the FSC wide receiver prospect model. So we can start with that.
He's somewhat athletic. He's somewhat athletic. That's what he's got going for him.
Yeah. And we are picking 105, which I actually really like.
I like that pick.
Do love that. We should be locked into one of, Chase Jefferson or St. Brown most likely. So
is that Larky at the 7 spot?
Yes, it is. It is Larky, I think.
Shout out. A Giga Chad got in here again. What a beauty.
16-man single quarterback PPR start 9 startup draft. Traded my first, second, and third for the startup 211. Nico Collins. Which side would you take there? 16-man single quarterback league. I think I'd be okay giving up a 1, 2, and a 3 for Nico Collins there.
I mean, if you're just equating it out, who's the 211 in a 12-man league? That's like Jahmyr Gibbs. I would give up a 1, 2, and 3 for Jahmyr Gibbs. So if you're talking relative to a 16-man or the fact that Nico Collins
it's a single quarterback league also, not a super flex.
That too. Yeah, that too. Christ.
Yeah, that's a good move for sure.
All day.
Brandon says, hey guys, traded my 11th overall. And remember, Brandon is the one who has the wild redraft league that has a bunch of trades in it. 11th overall in a late 5th and got the 5th overall pick in an early 7th. Now I have picks 5 and 8 overall in the first round. Good move. Yeah. I mean, you can walk out of there with 2 studs. I mean, we're going to pick one guy at number 5 overall right here. You could walk out of your draft with Justin Jefferson and Breece Hall or something like that. It'd be a nice start for you.
Come on. Go off the board here, brother. Give me a Tyreek Hill 105 share.
Yeah, that would be nice.
No, JJ or Amon-Ra, which one?
I'll let you choose. I'm personally on Team JJ.
Which one do you have a lot more shares of on Best Ball?
I believe the answer to that is Jefferson.
I don't mind experimenting with Amon-Ra. I'm cool. I'm 50-50 either. You know what? You pick the pick. I'll make.
Let's go St. Brown. Let's go St. Brown. I don't know if I've actually had the balls to click St. Brown over Jefferson yet. I usually just get St. Brown when I get St. Brown. I like some people. I don't really have a preference between those 2 guys, to be honest.
Fair enough. Dynasty Superflex. Okay, sorry. Have Herbert, Stroud, and Nick thoughts on moving a quarterback from more volatile boom best play guy like Richardson, or is it better to keep the long-term value guys? That's my team. I mean, if you're telling me I can move Herbert straight up for Richardson, I would do that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So again, I'm preparing the Dynasty trade targets at every position. And one of the soft sells that I have is Justin Herbert at quarterback. And it's simply for the reason that if you want the safety, the comfiness of having a stud quarterback who's just a great real life player, why not get the guy that projects better from redraft standpoint in Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, somebody like that? If you want the upside swing, obviously Richardson, but then there's the drawback that we don't know if Richardson's actually a good quarterback. So if you feel comfier on the Justin Herbert is a great NFL quarterback, even though he doesn't project very well redraft wise, I would argue just go buy Burrow or go buy Kyler or go buy Jordan Love. Or if you got the nuts for it, you could even go to Trevor Lawrence, and I wouldn't really blame you too much.
I would take Herbert still very easily.
What if you could get a nice plus on top of Lawrence?
I mean, if you're getting a first rounder, absolutely. But
I would take it. I would take Lawrence in it too for Herbert, to be honest.
It's
nothing against Herbert. He just is his value more volatile than people think?
I don't think so.
We all know he's a great real life quarterback, but
people expect him. People have him ranked as
disappointing from a fantasy perspective for 3 years in a row.
And he's still going in the top 17 overall picks.
Yes, but think about where he goes in underdog.
I know. No, I know. You're talking about value. You're talking about value liquidity. I'm saying people already understand that coming into the season that he probably doesn't project well in redraft. Because guess what? If he projected well in redraft, we'd be talking about the guy going 108, 109 in startups.
We would, but he projected well in redrafts the last 3 years, and he still finished terribly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm worried that Herbert might just be a little overrated from a fantasy perspective, not necessarily a real life perspective. I think he's a great real life quarterback. He's been very disappointing for a couple of years now, and if he disappoints again, I feel like people might be a little nervous and scared off by him in Dynasty.
This is just Barkley, right?
Unless you want to go I'd be okay with Barkley. I'd be okay grabbing Debo for the week 17 as well.
It's just too early for Debo for me. I can't push the button.
I mean, Mike Evans is on the thumbnail. I'd be fine with him too.
Spicy, you make the pick. How about that?
Yeah, we'll let Spicy make the pick. That's the default answer here.
Yeah, sure. He wants Barkley. Let's go.
So we'll take Saquon Barkley here. I saw Wyatt FF tweeted out today. He was like, "What have the Eagles done to show us that that Saquon Barkley is a guy that they're going to prioritize their offense around?" I was like, well, maybe the fact that they paid him $12 million for a team that never pays running backs would be a start to that. Yeah, again, we don't want to follow the money narrative on Saquon, but the Eagles of all teams paid this guy. I'm pretty sure they're going to use him inside the 10-yard line.
$26 million guaranteed. He's not touching the ball inside the 5-yard line.
It's so easy to just copy and paste last year's stats onto Saquon Barkley that DeAndre Swift put up. But guess what? DeAndre Swift isn't reliable. He's never been reliable.
So it's funny you mentioned that because there was actually a tweet. I was messaging with Ron. So Ron tweeted out, Saquon seems like a pretty consensus fade in the second round among the ETR, leg up, RotoViz, etc. guys. Curious why the strong pessimism, not drafting him myself, but starting to think maybe I should start mixing him in. This is what I responded. Running back who's handled huge workloads with a receiving track record goes to a top 5 to 10 offense and a very good offensive line, even without Jason Kelce. Swift was just as much of a problem on the goal line as Hurts tush push was. I'm taking him anytime he's falling to the back second like he does here. The only guys I would prioritize at wide receiver would be guys like Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins plus. But once you get into the Olave range, who's got his own question marks, obviously some of these other guys, Devontae Smith, Devontae Adams, in terms of both offensive production, in terms of volume and age, Deebo Samuel in terms of injury concern, obviously the target hierarchy there in San Francisco. Like Saquon Barkley's still going to be a 20 touch per game running back on what should be a top 10 NFL offense. I don't think we need to overthink it. Now, with that being said, wide receiver here, DJ Moore all day.
Yeah, it'd be DJ Moore for me.
All day. Cup does go. So we are starting to see people adjust. Remember at the beginning of the offseason, we were getting him in the 4th round. Like, why is he so cheap? People are starting to take him at that 2-3 turn.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
where he should be going.
Like, oh, I'm starting to mix in Saquon. I am not mixing him in. I have him 27% of my teams.
Yeah, like let me see.
I'm drafting him all over the place. Like I really don't get why people are overthinking Saquon Barkley. Like the Eagles do not pay running backs. They do not. So when they pay a running back, they're going to use him inside the 5-yard line as a receiver. Again,
16% Saquon, by the way.
Yeah, it's very easy to look at Saquon and be like, he's going to get sniped on the goal line. He's not going to catch passes because Jalen Hurts runs the football. He was inefficient the last couple of years in New York. It's like, I can explain away all of those concerns. For starters, like I mentioned, DeAndre Swift is unreliable. This is like the 3rd different coaching staff that refuses to give DeAndre Swift goal line work. So I don't really care that he like got sniped by Jalen Hurts on the goal line by the tush push. It's like the Lions didn't give him goal line carries either. They used Jamal Williams on the goal line.
And the other thing I want to notice, again, for reference, I honestly like DeAndre Swift's current valuation going in the 8th, 9th round area. I believe his ADP is roughly at the 89 spot. I'm very, very cool with him, with taking him there. But so Hayden and Josh actually put out the buttons are not clicking video and mentioned DeAndre Swift in it. Specifically, I'm going to make the relation to the Eagles offense last year. DeAndre Swift was top 10 and inside the 10 carries, which is what they cited on that video. Top 10 and inside the 10 carries. He just was not able to convert on those carries. He's just simply not a good goal line back. Now, the reason why I'm cool with him in Chicago is that at an 8th round, 9th round opportunity cost, getting a guy who, again, 3-year, $24 million contract, has a receiving skill set, can contribute, 200, 220 target touches. I just think that's a good valuation in the 8th, 9th round. But specifically when it comes to the Eagles running back situation, people want to talk, any running back on the Eagles, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, they just lose a ton of value. Well, both those guys are unreliable. And that's the thing. The reason why the Eagles gave that bag to Saquon Barkley is they wanted a reliable running back between the tackles. Can you handle the assignment? Can you run it based on our scheme? Yes, we love the creation ability of guys like Sanders and Swift, but we need a professional running back that will take what is there. And that's what we've seen from Saquon. Again, early in his career, danced a little bit too much. Obviously he's got some flair, got some flash to his game, but when you need a guy that can just plug it between the tackles 20 times like he's shown these last couple of years, Saquon's really matured as a running back. Now, obviously, the efficiency marks haven't been there relative to his early career, but I would argue that the Giants' offensive line was just as much of an issue with that. Saquon playing a more refined game, but the only problem is when you're playing a more refined, less creative type of game because of the injuries that you had, and your offensive line simply is not getting the push up front, that's going to impact you as well. So with Saquon Barkley, again, I understand it. Touch and age apex are a concern, but at the same time, him signing with the Eagles is as much reassurance as I could possibly need here.
Yeah. I would love to take a wide receiver here, but I don't know if I can. I think we could grab Lamar and hope that Andrews slides back, or we could grab Pacheco or ETN. I'm cool with either one.
I think I like the back here.
Okay. You want to go Pacheco over ETN?
Your call. Which one?
I prefer ETN, so I'd rather go ETN here.
Let's do it. I grabbed so much Pacheco, so I wanted to ask you which one you wanted because I don't know what your ownership is.
I mean, I like both of them. I draft a lot of either guy. The last thing to put a button on this Saquon conversation is Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles on a big contract is like when you and I say like, hey, we don't draft running backs early, but then an elite running back with RB1 legendary upside slides to us at the end of the 2nd round or the early 3rd round in a fantasy draft. And we're like, hey, I'm the 0 RB guy, but I'll draft this guy. That's how the Philadelphia Eagles took their approach at their front office. They're like, I'm not paying Swift. I'm not paying Sanders because those guys are replaceable running back talents. But if you're going to let an elite running back talent come for non-elite prices, then I will pay for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like they lowered the market themselves and capitalized on said lower market. It was genius.
What was DeAndre Swift's ADP last year? Like 5th round?
I think 6th round, give or take.
Was he that low?
Yeah, there was. I remember in our listener redraft league, I got him like really late, like 8th round or something like that, or 9th round.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
Joel said 5 best and 5 worst trade video was great. Danny should do one. Yeah, you got to go back in the archives. It took me a while.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. For the record, again, as many trades as you make, Corey, you could probably like 4 or 5x the amount of trades I make, especially early in the Dynasty leagues we were in. In the early Dynasty leagues, when I say I was making like 2 or 3 trades at least a week, I'm not joking. Each league.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you ever want to sit down and go through and find some good ones and some bad ones, it was a fun exercise to do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Jelly Boy says, am I crazy to think Myers goes way too low in Dynasty and BBM? I'm generally a little pessimistic on Devontae Adams at his price tag, so I think that's maybe a decent take. Saying that Jacoby Myers is decently priced, but
he could be the third weapon in
Bowers,
a bad
that's
offense.
The thing.
That's the thing, and BBM specifically. Again, what I've really contextualized of late. Why am I? Why is the market so confident on Jacoby Myers over Brandon Cooks? Straight up, Jacoby Myers could be the third weapon in a bad offense
because you need production. That's why you take Myers. He's like the Tyler Lockett click, or the, you know what I mean? Like you take him because you need somebody early in the year. So, do we want to grab Keenan and double stack up the Bears?
I think I would rather wait on a Doomsday. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. We could grab Jaden Reed or somebody here, maybe.
I'm cool with Jaden. You know,
let's grab Jaden Reed. We got to take our medicine a little bit at wide receiver, even though it makes me sick taking Jaden Reed over Josh Jacobs in a vacuum.
Same.
But we kind of just have to take our medicine there because we deviated for 2 backs already.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like if we wanted a receiver, I mean, to be fair, once T. Higgins was off the board, I'm sorry, I can't do Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Hollywood Brown over Travis Etienne or Isaiah Pacheco. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, that's
ridiculous, man. Like that's why I wanted to go Debo, was because we had the week 17 correlation, and also like I thought there was a half decent chance Saquon would fall back to the 3rd, and also too, it's hard to deviate in the second round for a wide receiver or for a running back.
I got to check my rankings to confirm, but like DJ Moore versus I understand because we have the week 17, maybe you do go with a guy like Debo there because of that, but I can't do it. Like when I'm looking at my best ball rankings right now, Debo Samuel, I have listed as I literally have DJ Moore ranked ahead of Debo Samuel.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get on board with that take, but I think he's a little overvalued. I'll give you that.
In half PPR, I guess it evens out more because my rankings are based on full, so that I guess that's fair. In half PPR, Debo a little bit more valuable because of the rushing ability that he brings. Obviously, again, he's
also just a spike week guy too.
Yeah,
like
that's fair. I mean, like
to be fair, I had to raise up a little bit. I was a little too low on him, I think. And
where do you have him ranked?
I'd have to pull it up specifically. Let me take a look. I usually have my rankings just on the screen while I'm drafting, but let me take.
You take Debo or T. Higgins?
Let me hold on. I'm still pulling it up.
Yeah, you're fair. I just made that. So for reference, again, our trade value chart we're working on right now, our rankings are fully updated in there. And then, of course, that will be dropping soon. It will also be updated over on the site as well. Both my best ball and my dynasty rankings will be inputted there as soon as possible as well. But yeah, we just were updating the trade value chart from a specific dynasty perspective. And there's some movement, absolutely. Going through it, I realized there was quite some valuations, especially once you get the context of the redraft projections now versus the redraft projections we had at the time we last really updated those, did a full thorough analysis on it. Once you have the context of where they kind of project in redraft, you can kind of make the claim. Like, for example, like I would prefer Mike Evans to Devontae Adams in redraft this year. So why do I have Devontae Adams ahead of Mike Evans in Dynasty? They're the same age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I think I like DeAndre Hopkins quite a bit here.
I was just about to make the claim of Hopkins or Pitts, so I'm cool with either.
Yeah, I prefer Hopkins with this spot. I'm not clicking the button on Pitts. I'm not gonna lie. Like, to me, he's too expensive. I think he should be. I mean, I guess he technically went after George Kittle in this draft, but for the most part, Kittle does go later than him. His ADP is like 8 picks later, so that's why I'm not clicking the button on him. Is that I view Kittle as a better option.
I mean, I don't. I would actually rather have Pitts than Dalton Kincaid, who goes 2 rounds earlier. So I would.
That's a why. I personally can't get on board with that because I think if they both are good, hypothetically,
Kincaid's just a better player.
I don't think that's a thing I can say.
The claim,
right? Maybe you're right, but I can't say that with certainty.
The claim with Kincaid is he a good enough player? Because if he's a good enough player,
That's
obviously
also
he's got
the
the
claim
offensive
with Pitts,
insulation.
by the way.
I don't think it's the case at all. I think
that's the
indeed a
case
good player.
precisely.
Not at all. Not at all. I think the comment.
If you don't think that's the case, you should be drafting him in round 4.
Why would I draft him in round 4 if the market has him as a round 5, 6
Okay,
pick?
so you're obviously clicking the button on him quite a bit. To me, I have more question marks about his ability because I don't think it was all Arthur Smith's fault that he wasn't producing. I think it was partially Arthur Smith's fault, but I think that Pitts was to blame as well. So to me, I view him as a guy that I know if he hits big, like he will burn the shit out of me this year, but I'm actually quite willing to take that risk. Like I'll be a 4 or 5% exposure guy on Pitts when he falls, and that's probably it.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I do really like Kittle too in terms of
Keon is a huge tier break at wide receiver.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Like J-Mo is the next best player. To me, I would take Keon easily here.
Yeah, even though we have him on, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, I literally, you'd think, oh, the times I take J-Mo, I'm going to mix him in with Amon-Ra stacks, or I'm just like literally never drafting J-Mo. Like I'm not doing it. If it's a player take I get wrong, it's a player take I get wrong. I just do not think he is remotely worth this pick.
We'll see if it falls to us because I doubt it does. However, if it somehow does, I am very, very cool with a nice little Dakota Prescott, Jake Ferguson wraparound, and then Brandon Cooks later because we do have the Saquon Barkley week 17.
Yeah, we don't have another pick for a while though. If we take Dak, there's a good chance that Fergo will go.
8-9 turn. Well, it's like a wraparound. We would have to take Ferguson first, but the only problem is the CD Lamb guy's picking behind us.
Yeah, I mean, if we took Prescott first, then we'd have a chance of it falling. But
yeah, I mean, actually, that's probably the play to take Prescott first. Yeah, okay, that's fair. It was wishful thinking.
I mean, we didn't obviously get Odunze, but Caleb is obviously still in play for us, as is Jordan Love with Jaden Reed stacked up for us. We actually have a lot of quarterback outs, I would say.
That's why I'm cool with it.
Jordan Love and Caleb Williams are two guys that I find myself clicking a decent amount because I generally draft the pass catchers a lot. I actually draft Christian Watson more than I draft Jaden Reed because I like the price tag a little bit better.
Yeah, like my ownership of Caleb Williams is 24.4% because also if you grab Chicago Bears pass catchers relatively early, for whatever reason, you would think, Caleb Williams, young, exciting, like he would go ahead of ADP a lot. But I noticed like if you have at least 2 of the Chicago pass catchers, he somewhat slides in these drafts.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that as well. He's the type of guy that just slides a little bit. Is it crazy to draft CD over CMC 101 in redraft? In a redraft league, I wouldn't do it. In best ball, I'm okay doing it.
As long as it's full PPR, half PPR redraft, maybe at that point because of your league mates having running back thirst, I don't hate it. Obviously, best ball, half PPR, I would still do CD Lamb. If it's a full PPR redraft league, I'm drafting CD Lamb over Christian McCaffrey every time, sleeping like a baby.
All right. What do you think JSN's ceiling is? Was offered Laporta for JSN in a first, 7. Okay, I don't need tight end, but I do need a running back. So I want
what's 701
the first for next year's draft after seeing your video on that class.
What does 701 1001 mean?
I don't know.
Like maybe it'll probably be within 7th and 10th.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll answer. We'll to make this pick first, and then we'll answer that.
Yeah.
So
tight end.
To me, I think Bowers would be the pick.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I mean, everybody behind us except for GT has a tight end. Maybe we want to go with another position first.
Honestly, I don't want to risk losing Bowers, to be honest. I think he's just the best.
We
also passed on Devontae Adams, too, which is kind of us doubling down on that take that we made for the Saquon pick.
Yeah. Plus, if GT takes a tight end there, we'll be happy. The only issue is we're competing with him for running backs right now. That's kind of when I pointed it.
Yeah, I was going to say our next pick should probably be Jordan Love anyways.
Is that scissors?
Anyways, this question, assuming that's going to be a late pick, I would still rather have Laporta, to be honest.
Do you not know who Scissors is?
I do not.
He's a YouTuber.
He has a red badge apparently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, shout out if he's actually if that's actually him.
But yeah, I don't know where you stand on this. Would you rather have Laporta or JSN in a projected mid to late first?
Projected mid to late first. I mean, I trust my ability to be able to find tight end production. So I personally would actually rather have JSN in the first. As crazy as that sounds.
That's
I think I
interesting.
would.
I mean, depends on the tight end premium settings and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I play in like a lot of half tight end premium, so I would say I'd probably just take Laporta in that format.
Yeah, which is
Connor
like,
says,
again,
what you
it's
boys
fair.
thinking about Jake Ferguson's floor and ceiling this year? I think he's a pretty like tight range of outcome player. He probably doesn't have the ceiling to be like a top 3 tight end, but he could be anywhere from tight end like 4-5 to like tight end 10, and I wouldn't really be shocked.
The thing
I don't think
him
his floor is super low either. I think he's probably like locked in top 12 tight end this year.
Like his range of outcomes is funny because it's like he's probably going to lie somewhere between 700 to 950 receiving yards, like around that.
I would consider not like 700 even like a pretty good season for him. Like I
he
think
had 750 last year.
Yeah, he's definitely a pretty solid option. Like I'm not gonna lie, he's an okay option. He's kind of like what Dallas Goedert used to be, where we always just were like, oh yeah, he's gonna be like tight end 4 to tight end 10.
Well, with Ferguson, he actually had 761 last year. So
yeah, and he was a second-year player. So I feel like people pretending that to know what someone is already as a player, if they've only played a year or two in the NFL, to me is a wild thing that people do in the fantasy space. Like we already know that Rachaad White sucks, even though he's played 2 years in the NFL. We already know that Brock Purdy is all that he's going to be, even though he's played 2 years in the NFL, or Jake Ferguson's all that he's ever going to be. Like young players on their rookie contracts, like Brock Purdy has played 2 years in the NFL, for example.
Yeah.
He literally wouldn't even be a good quarterback at this point in his career most of the time. Like most quarterbacks are not good until their third year.
Real quick, by the way, in terms of Ferguson. So again, like I said, 761 last year.
We gotta make a pick here. Hold on. We gotta make a pick. So we kind of got screwed. I'm down to backdoor stack Jaden Daniels if you are. And then we could take
over Dak.
Would you take Dak with no pass catchers? To me, I'm just taking Jaden Daniels there.
We have Barkley, we get Cooks. I guess. I don't know. I think plus we get 80.
Yeah, let's grab Prescott. Grab Prescott. Like, I forgot we had Barkley. So we do have some correlation in week 17, but I'm not in the business of stacking or not stacking quarterbacks who don't run.
I agree with you, but also it's like just in terms of projection, Dak projects a lot better than
he does.
Daniels.
He does, but I would just say Daniels is more independent of his pass catchers that we could just draft him. If we're going to go naked quarterback or, draft Jane Daniels and Jahan Dotson and Ben Sinnott or something, it's probably better that we do it with
like once the Dak Love Burrow range is gone, I'm cool with that. Like taking him maybe over Caleb because he's a rookie or potential other quarterbacks after. It's just like Dak, my thoughts on Dak. I view Dak as at least being in that tier, if not very, very close to CJ Stroud versus like the Jane Daniels plus area.
Yeah, I'm not going to even fight back on that because we've done this conversation a million times. Just
times.
Hopping in here, boys. When's the next Dynasty decisions? We could probably drop one this weekend, I would say.
Yeah.
Who are the top 5 prospects in 2025? This is a good question for us now. Well, first question is there a quarterback? And the answer for me is definitely not.
Could end up being Beck, but if I had to draft,
I still think even if Beck hits, he's still 106, 107 range of rookie drafts because he's just not a
Beck goes first overall, he's going to be a top 5 pick. 100%.
You think? Okay, that's interesting.
If I would say is the first overall pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Like he's going to be a top 5 overall pick, and it's just going to happen. Because what's the start evaluation going to be? It's going to be relatively similar to JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. So if I had to rank the players right now, I would rank. This might be a shock because I said Genty would be my 101. I think Luther Burden's the 101 personally.
Burden McMillan because of the wide receiver thirst and dynasty and how the.
I would rather have Genty than McMillan.
That would be the combo, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I would go Burden, Genty, McMillan, Gordon. And
I would have Hampton there instead.
I would probably go Judkins 105. That's who I had ranked among the running backs. But again, Hampton, Egbuka, those guys would all be kind of in that range.
Yeah, I would say the way I would have it ranked there is either it's Omarion Hampton plus Ollie Gordon for me, because again, like I said, I have Omarion Hampton 2, Ollie Gordon at 3. If you guys watched that video, or it'd be among running backs, or it'd be Omarion Hampton plus Emeka Egbuka, assuming he stays healthy this year and gets first round capital.
Yeah. For me, I prefer Judkins slightly. And it's actually more that I just project that Judkins will have a better year than Hampton, and that's why I'm ranking him ahead.
Is Cooks available here?
We could just take Caleb as our second quarterback.
Cooks just went. That was the worry. Okay, we can go Caleb here. I'm cool with that. Cooks does go, so that's a little bit annoying, but we could, again, it sounds gross. We can get Jalen Tolbert later. Again, I am not worried personally. I understand having an unstacked pocket quarterback is a minus EV pick overall. But when you have Dak Prescott falling after ADP and being, in my opinion, a tier break at the position, I'm more cool with that. Not to mention we're done at quarterback now versus if we had waited, gotten Jane Daniels / Caleb Williams as a quarterback 1, I would argue we'd probably have needed a 3 quarterback build. So the idea there is Dak Prescott being your standalone guy. You have the correlation to Caleb Williams. And if Caleb Williams maybe throws a couple picks, but DJ Moore gets there in the final week versus if Dak Prescott lights up the Eagles like he always seems to do, you're looking good there.
Yeah, I was literally just going to say we should take Goddard and close off our tight end build, but he just ended up going. Yeah. We could grab Komet, I suppose, and double stack up Caleb Williams as our second tight end later on. Not with this pick, obviously. We probably need to grab a back here. We haven't grabbed one in a while. Hopefully we can get somebody of decent. We could take Zeke, I suppose.
Yeah, I am very cool with that, actually.
Get some correlation. I mean, I doubt we're going to get many connections of receiving touchdowns from Dak Prescott, but I do think just betting on the offense like we did with Dak indicates that Zeke maybe had a good year.
So hypothetically, say if Zeke were to go here, we can get Dowdle at the next turnaround.
Yeah, I just don't think Dowdle's good, to be honest.
I think he's good.
I'm team Zeke of this Cowboys backfield. I'm been team Zeke. I don't know. To me, I look at a guy
touchdown equity. I'm cool with it.
He could literally rush for 3.4 yards a carry and still score 14 touchdowns. Like, this might be an outrageously blasphemous take. This might look so stupid.
What?
But in a downside scenario for the first player that I'm about to mention, does Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott make that much of a difference this year?
No.
In a downside scenario for Derrick Henry. If he's still the same dude, obviously Henry's going to have a way better year. But if he looks like the guy he did last year, I don't think Zeke and him being close in scoring is out of the range of outcomes at all.
I would agree. Now, the thing with Ezekiel Elliott, again, it's very gross. Don't get me wrong. You got to plug your nose when you make the pick because you're just looking at 3.6 yards per carry and maybe 850 rushing yards. But I would agree that 40% of the snaps, James is saying Dowdle is the RB1. I think Dowdle is the RB1 on a between the 20s type of projection. But what the Cowboys were missing last year and what the Cowboys ceded the opportunity to from Dowdle last year was inside the 20 work, inside the 10 work. I mean, we saw Tony Pollard be one of the highest volume inside the 10, inside the 20 backs in the NFL last year. He just simply wasn't converting that to touchdowns. Now, even if Ezekiel Elliott is not even close to what he was in his prime, even if he's a 3.6 to 3.8 yards per carry type of player, if he's giving you 850 yards and he's getting 80% autonomy on those goal line carries, again, I understand
he can still score, and he scored a lot of touchdowns last year. He had 65 targets last season, dude. He had 12th most targets among running backs.
That's insane.
That's I don't know. Please tell me what I'm missing. But Rico Dowdle was a UDFA who hasn't played much.
He's solid. Trust me.
Why are we worried about? If you think Rico is the number one running back, he should be going in round 8.
Trust me, Rico Dowdle is solid. Rico Dowdle is solid. Rico Dowdle is solid.
I don't know. Even if he's the new Pollard, hypothetically, where he has Pollard's old role,
he's not quite Pollard
or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's that quite of a situation, but in terms of like, could Dowdle work ahead of Zeke in terms of between the 20s? Absolutely, because Dowdle did show me something.
He did, but I think
I'm just telling you from watching the games. I'm giving you the context.
Yeah, I just think they're gonna have a boring run game where the only person that matters is the one who scores, and to me, that's Zeke very easily.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He also is a better, people talk shit, but like receiving production in the NFL wise would say that Ezekiel Elliott is a better receiver than Rico Dowdle, even though Rico Dowdle looks like a better receiver when you watch the film.
Wait, did you say Ezekiel Elliott's a better receiver than Rico Dowdle?
Production wise, he has been a more productive receiver.
Production, sure, but like contextually, he was getting force-fed targets.
Contextually, I digress again because he looks good on his catches. Rico Dowdle,
yeah, he was efficient on his catches last year. That's basically what I'm saying. You're talking about just pure ability as a receiver, I think Dowdle, but like you said, because Zeke's got the track record, it could very well be the case where he gets it. I'm not going to argue that
he had 22 targets last year. What are we excited about Rico Dowdle for?
Because he was efficient on them. He was good.
He had 8.5 yards per catch. Big
solid, very good, very solid.
Okay.
Running back out of the
what do we got? Do we want to?
I mean, we could just
I don't mind Gus here. I never draft Gus Edwards, and he is well past ADP here.
Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it.
Yeah. Grab
Gus. And we got to focus
Hopefully,
on
we can get Komet to slide back to us in the next round to close off the tight end build.
The difference between Zamir and Rico is that Zamir's been drafted as like the RB21, and what's Rico's ADP right there? RB40 something off the board.
Rico's going way lower than Zamir White, but
Because
yeah, I mean, at least from Zamir White, I've seen him carry a workload for a couple of weeks.
No, that's fair. I'm not. Again, I would rather have Zamir White. I'm just saying.
Me too,
said
yeah.
Zamir and Rico not finishing top 18. It'd be a lot more disappointing if Zamir White didn't finish top 18. Rico, like, if he doesn't finish top 18, like, you're not drafting him anywhere close to that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Burrow for CD and Drake May. I know
Easily
Danny's
May,
opinion on that.
Easily.
I would actually prefer CD and Drake May for what it's worth, but I know you were going to say, like, take him to the woodshed type shit.
I would rather CD straight up to Burrow. So the fact you're getting a free May, sign me up.
I think it's a wash, even though I'm a huge Burrow guy for CD for Burrow there. Trade away a late first, second, Penix and Javonte for JT, Minshew, and Kendre. Oof. I think if you're given a late one and a 2, you should get JT and Kendre, and then that should be the end of the trade. Penix and Javonte for Minshew and the rest of that trade. I'm not a huge fan of this one. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you just took away the Minshew Penix swap, I'd like it a lot better. Yeah. And you gave Javonte. Ooh, I just noticed.
Yeah, I mean, Javonte's not like special or anything, but he's still got some upside.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty easily Komet here. He closed off the tight end build.
Yeah, cool with that. I mean, yeah.
He's kind of gross, but he makes sense as a backup tight end for Brock. Obviously, he's going to be the guy that if Bowers hits, like, Komet's never really... And, like, for what it's worth, too, like, Komet has been a good red zone option. So even if he's, like, not that good from a target perspective, we have Caleb, and he could score some touchdowns.
For sure.
I'm not a fan of Debo where he's going right now. What are y'all's thoughts on his outlook? Again, in best ball, he's going to just inherently go higher because he is week 17 correlated to Amon-Ra, and he's on an offense that people want to stack up together. I have Debo right around where he's going. I have him at 25 overall, so I have him right at the 2-3 turn. Again, in redraft leagues, I think that's probably where he'll go. He just goes a little earlier on best ball because of the stacking potential with all those guys. The fact that McCaffrey goes early, the fact that Amon-Ra goes early, and those type of things. For me, I think his outlook is fine. I think he probably projects as like a back-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 type of upside option, and then low-end wide receiver 2 if he has like a disappointing season. That's probably what he's going to end up being.
Yeah. Got my fave pick 6. I'm here at the 108. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
Damn, are we that behind?
Looks like it. Do you guys do keeper leagues? I do not.
I have actually never played in a keeper league. I went straight from redraft to dynasty. I did not dabble with flirting in the middle.
Damn. Wait, Ben, were you the one that sniped us on Brandon Cooks? Oh, that's not very nice.
I mean, he might have had Lamb. No, he wouldn't have. It was 108.
108. You're in a managed league. Who is your ideal players for draft slot number 7? I mean,
I at a managed league, I want Bijan or Brees at that pick, to be honest. I think in managed leagues, you're going to have a way easier time getting wide receivers rounds 2 through 5. So
if Amon-Ra or Jefferson fall, I am taking them.
They won't.
If they're both gone. If they're both gone, then I will be taking Bijan.
Yeah. I mean, draft slot number 7 is an ideal spot to pick from, though, I will say. Like, you're guaranteed one of those top wide receivers or one of the top running backs, and you should still be able to stack up good wide receiver depth behind them.
Yeah, I don't blame you, by the way, Jaw. 3 back-to-back 12 spots. Yikes. Sorry if this isn't allowed, but does anyone here know of a basketball fantasy? Yeah, I'm not sure of any channels that actually do in-depth fantasy basketball or fantasy basketball content, but if you do find out, let me know because I am in a couple NBA fantasy leagues. So, yeah. Wide receiver, bad. What's the next receiver after that? Franklin? Sure.
Yeah. Let's grab Troy.
Big Troy, and then what would we need? We need probably one more receiver after that. We close off with Tolbert.
How many running backs do we have? 4?
4.
So who do we have again? ETN.
Barkley, ETN. Probably a 5 build.
Edwards, yeah. I mean, correlation wise, I'll look up. Go to the running back board real quick, Spicy. I just want to start some correlation running backs here.
Gibson does, but I mean we don't.
Mitchell, we have correlation with Amon-Ra if you want to start him.
Mitchell.
We don't have any Panthers, so no for Irving. Chargers, we have Gus. We could star Gibson.
I already said that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad. We could grab Khalil Herbert too. We do have Bears stacked up. We bet against DeAndre Swift a little bit with Khalil Herbert.
Cool with that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's our running back. Wide receivers. Let's look quick. Any of the Patriots guys
Malachi
make sense?
Corley and Keon Coleman we have correlation with.
Yeah, any of the Patriots guys also make sense because we have the Chargers versus Patriots week 17.
Yeah, Patriots make sense. I just like McMillan.
Tolbert
Doesn't correlate with anything.
Tolbert. So who's our second quarterback with Caleb? So we already have him fully stacked up. If we can get a single stack for Dak, we're looking good.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Kind of taking the L on the Dak stack, but whatever.
I don't mind it.
I know some people's attitude is like, if you don't stack your quarterback, you're an idiot. I'm like, you know what? If the guy's coming at a good enough value, I'm not gonna say I'm.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, dude, like even if you
grab
don't
Corley here, by the way.
Yes, let's do that. I don't grab a lot of Corley on my own, right? So I don't mind mixing them in here. Like I understand the pessimism around Dak, and again, this is 6 points. So let me see if I can find a league where it is 4-point passing touchdown. FC Listener League Dino is 4-point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So if we're looking at Dak here, even if you're telling me, okay, shit, you're not getting the stacking options for Dak, and again, who knows? Maybe we end up with a guy like Jalen Tolbert in the second last round. Dak still, like, even if you're getting standalone upside, he had games in 4-point passing touchdown, 29 points, 28.36, 41.86, 32.24, 28.26, 21.62, 23.3, 26.16. So we're still talking about a guy that has 23 plus point spike week upside, where even if your main stack is the Bears, but say Caleb throws a couple picks and only gives you 19 fantasy points that week, but the other Bears get there. If Dak in week 17, again, against a team last year in Philadelphia where he put up a game of 28.36 points in week 9 specifically was the big one that he had. Say he has another 26-point performance even in an unstacked situation, you're still benefiting the lineup.
Here's hoping Dak rushes in 2 QB sneaks in week 17.
That'd be great. I mean, for what it's worth, we saw his rushing upside go up more last year compared to the last few. And obviously, again, if he's fully healthy, fully trusting his leg off, obviously coming off of that injury from a few years back, this is a guy who at the start of the career was giving you, 6 rushing touchdowns, 6, 3. Last year, he only gave you 2, but we really saw that rushing uptick in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I mean, from a advance rate perspective, I don't think anybody cares that Dak is unstacked. It's just in week 17, how do you get there, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Does Dak have a monster game in week 16 and he gets you into the week 17 final, and then Caleb has the monster game in week 17? That could definitely be a thing for us. It's just the challenging thing is that if you have Dak, and in my opinion, like it doesn't even matter if you have Cooks and Ferguson, because if you have Dak and he's the quarterback you need in week 17, Lamb's getting there. Like we all know that.
100%.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's like having an unstacked Dak without Lamb even, let alone with Cooks and Ferguson. It's like, it's almost useless there.
Yeah. Like if Dak's giving you 350 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, even if the majority of the passing production goes to CeeDee Lamb, but he rushes in the touchdown. And like you said, inherently, CeeDee Lamb's going to get there anyways. You're already making the bet. Okay, well, if we go into our round,
we would just need like our first round pick to outscore Lamb. Like if Garrett Wilson has,
or at least keep track with him. Yeah.
Or St. Brown. Sorry, not Garrett Wilson.
Or at the very least, keep within track of him, right? Because we also have the Bears correlation there. So, yeah. By the way, I'm not suggesting ideally. No, you definitely.
I think of all stacks in fantasy this year, I think Dak and Lamb is one of the most
consolidated,
concentrated ones that you can get. Okay, we're on the clock here, Spicy. If you want to go to the board,
wide receiver here, close off.
I think Herbert's a fine pick here. We can grab Herbert.
Yeah, because I realized that ADP. So we go Herbert here and then Tolbert on the way back, and we're chilling.
We still have one more pick other than that too.
Yeah,
I'd be okay. I mean, if Damian Pierce or Tracy fell back to us too, we could just grab one of those guys and then close Tolbert as our final pick.
Do we want to risk Tolbert not falling back?
Why is he going to go?
203.9 ADP.
I mean, if he goes, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, to be honest.
Fair.
I know we don't have Dak stacked with anybody, but Jalen Tolbert to me doesn't strike me as the guy that you need anyway.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. We can go Tracy. I'm cool with that. I like Tracy.
Ideal team construction wise in week 17, you consolidate your bets. You make as few as possible. But if it means you also Tolbert over a better projection, I'll just take the better projection anyway.
Yeah. So plus I have so much Tolbert on my own. I don't mind risking it, quote unquote, for the biscuit. We left here, I believe.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Superflex
AJ mentioned his trade, and this is the rest of his team, I'm thinking.
Superflex PPR half tight end trade away Ramondre, Vidal, Minshew, etc. for Engram and Njoku. There's a lot of moving parts there. Holy shit. You're trading away. I mean, I
guess we'll
want
take
the Ingram and Joku
Njoku
side.
there.
Yeah, just the value. I mean, Curtis Samuel would be the second best asset on the other side.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can make the argument that never mind. I was gonna say Darnell Mooney is, but he's probably not. But I don't know. Vidal, Minshew, Theo Johnson, who gives a fuck?
What's up, all you amazing people? Appreciate the kind words, Chef. He says, I have a lot of McLaughlin and Pierce that I just want to move on from, but no one's buying. Hold, drop, or just take future thirds and fourths. Just hold at that point.
Someone gave me 2/3 for Jaleel McLaughlin in one league.
That's insane.
Don't know how, but that it did happen.
What kind of season would Garrett Wilson have to join the top 3 elite tier in Dynasty?
Probably has to be wide receiver 1 to 3 in redraft this year.
What would you say? 1,400 yards, 9+ touchdowns?
We're on the clock real quick. So
Tracy.
we want to grab Tracy and close off the running back build?
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
If we're not going Tolbert, we may as well go Tracy and hope Tolbert falls back is the way.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
We also, week 17 correlator too. We have Travis Etienne. We could grab Tyler Boyd with our final pick too.
Yes, I am very down. I'm very down.
I would actually prefer that to taking Tolbert because I just think Tolbert.
Because we have Dak, I would rather Tolbert, but
yeah,
also I'm not losing sleep either way.
Yeah, I just think Tolbert isn't good. That's why I don't want to take him.
Yeah, he's gonna start at 3 wide receivers.
They're gonna find a way. Like I think you get into trouble a little bit when you're like, oh, he's gonna be. I agree mostly. For a top offense. It's like if he was actually gonna be a starter for a top offense, he would be going higher.
I agree mostly, but also I feel like people have kind of a stink on Tolbert when his same projection.
There's a reason for that, though.
I get that, but his same projection this year, where he's going round 18, also Boyd goes. The same projection he's going round 18 this year was the same projection people were taking him over Garrett Wilson in the 11th in his rookie year. So even if
that was like we were wrong then.
I agree, but like you're getting a 7-round discount on the same bet.
I don't know. The guy has 280 yards in 25 career games, dude.
He didn't get
maybe he's a starting outside wide receiver, but
I'm not arguing Jalen Tolbert's a world beater of a talent. What I'm arguing is that in the 18th round, if you can get potentially starting snaps on the offense, who is still from a young player. I mean, it's not out of the range of outcomes.
All we would need from him is 6 for 80 and a touchdown in week
1
17.
week. Yes,
in week
that's
17.
What I'm saying.
We would need that.
It's a round 18 pick.
He's just an arbitrage against Lamb, is that somehow he gets the production. Like it's so rare of a chance to actually happen. But if by some miracle, Jalen Tolbert's the guy who catches Dak's only passing touchdown and Zeke rushes the other 2 in because we have Elliott,
that would be fun.
Then we would be in great shape there. And hopefully Caleb would get us there at quarterback, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we are looking pretty good here, I think, unless knock on wood.
Now I talked myself into Jalen Tolbert.
That's
what we call copium.
You won't regret it, brother.
I don't see much of a difference between Myers and Godwin. I mean, that's not a horrible take, but I think that just maybe speaks to Myers being undervalued as opposed to Godwin being, overvalued or whatever.
Good call on waiting the turn, by the way. Good call.
Yeah. How much do you guys value PFF receiving grade when evaluating wide receivers? It is currently 5% of the prospect model's grade if I graded them on film, and it's 10% if I did not. So that's a numerical answer for how much I value it in the prospect model.
I respect the scroll the draft down pick, but who actually is C. Washington?
I have no idea who that is.
Who? Wait.
Washington? Curtis Washington? I don't know who that is.
Casey Washington. 23-year-old from Illinois. I guess he got selected 187 overall. I've never heard of this guy in my life.
Interesting. All right. He's this year's Puka, clearly.
Yeah, facts. I mean, 23-year-old, 6th-round pick. What was his production profile at Illinois? He had 670 yards and 4 touchdowns as a 5th-year player.
Yeah, he was a fodder prospect in the model. I do remember him now.
Fair enough.
Hey, don't ruin Burden for me. I'm supposed to be able to get him at 102 next season. I will bet good money that he will be the consensus 101 for most people.
Yeah, I mean,
if you guys Burden, disagree, but I like Ted as well.
Hear me out, right? I actually said this in the wide receiver rankings video. I wanted so desperately after watching them to have Tet 1 because the ceiling is so massive. But when you actually assign point values and grade them out, like Luther is just so consistent across the board that, again, Tet, the overall ceiling could be there where he has 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns, and ends up taking the number 1
Why can't
role.
Luther Burden do that? The current top 3 Dynasty wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Jamar Chase, are the same dimensions as Luther Burden.
I agree. I'm just saying, like, I can see Tet McMillan passing him because I do think the ceiling might be a little bit higher. But like you said, Luther Burden's projection right now is so clean. And like you said, his ceiling is still massive in his own right. Like we're talking about if Tet's ceiling is, which with the movement ability he has at his size, Mike Evans plus, like, guess what? What if you're getting Jamar Chase from Luther Burden? Like that's
I actually think I'm going to disagree with you completely. I think Luther Burden's ceiling is higher.
You think so, eh?
I think I think you're just saying his ceiling is higher because he's bigger.
Touch on equity, right? Like that would be the argument. But at the same time, again, I still prefer Luther Burden. You don't have to come at my neck. I agree with you. I would rather have Burden.
I don't think Ted has a higher ceiling.
I'm making the case for Ted McMillan.
He's a better separator.
Sure. And if Ted McMillan improves as a separator and we know what he's able to do in the air, like that's the ceiling.
I think Burden's a better athlete.
I mean, he's also 6'5", 210, bro.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I just think
I'm not arguing against Luther. You're misconstruing me.
I know. I'm not arguing
that misinterpreting
Ted has a high ceiling. I just think you're saying the word ceiling without quantifying what it exactly means, because the current elite wide receivers in Dynasty are not 6'5", 225 pounds.
We haven't seen an archetype like Ted McMillan go this high since at least Drake London, but I think Ted McMillan going into this year has a higher ceiling than even Drake London as a prospect. And I think you'd agree with that.
Potentially. I still think that Burden's ceiling is higher simply because he translates pretty well to today's NFL game, where he can be a separator, yards after catch guy, and that's where I'm at with him.
I mean, we both had him wide receiver 1, bro. I was just making the claim for Ted McMillan.
No, I know. That's fair. Okay. Makes me feel good about my Genti analysis. We're going to just finish out these questions here. We'll go over the team actually first. We got Dak Prescott, Caleb Williams as the quarterbacks. Like we said, we didn't end up actually stacking up Dak Prescott there. Spicy, if you want to scroll down a little bit. Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne. We ended up taking 2 running backs in the first 4 rounds, which is a little bit of a no-no at times, but we did kind of recover a little bit at wide receiver. Zeke, Gus Edwards, Khalil Herbert, and Tyrone Tracy close out the running back core. I actually really like how that came together. St. Brown, DJ Moore, Jaden Reed, DeAndre Hopkins, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, Malachi Corley, and Jalen Tolbert. Again, I think we landed the plane pretty well with this wide receiver core. Good selection of solidified guys, good selection of upside. And then Brock Bowers, Cole Kmet, again, very similar, like 1 solidified, 1 upside is basically how we have that set up there. Okay. Due diligence. Of course, Ethan is in the chat here, as he often makes his presence known with some due diligence. Brock says, does Danny think Rico is solid? Apparently he does. Don't get it, but he does think he's solid.
He's very solid, actually.
If someone told you a year ago the Cowboys would re-sign Zeke, you would laugh at them for weeks. Yes, I will say that, but I also will say that Zeke could still fall backwards into 14 touchdowns this year.
They already did it. Instead of making fun of the signing, we got to assign value to his ADP, man. He's going in the 12th round, and any 12th round pick with double-digit touchdown equity in terms of their upside is worth the pick. Like straight up. Yeah. Even if he falls ass backwards into it, man, he's 10 touchdowns, even on 700 rushing yards, is a top 24 finish. And if you're getting top 24 finish as a RB 39 off the board, that's going to pay off. That'll do.
Yeah, Ethan just glazing Danny in the chat right now, baby. Saying that Michigan would beat 34.5. That is crazy. First thing I'm doing, by the way, when that game comes out, is I'm benching Quinn Ewers and starting my dynasty with Arch Manning.
Can we quickly talk about the fact that Michigan was like 88 overall and Colorado was 87? Like, we're talking about the defending national champions being 1 rating higher than a 4-8 fucking Pac-12 team.
I mean, I'm fairly certain that's just Colorado hype more than Michigan slander.
Stanford was 87 too, and they went 3-9. It's a joke.
Yeah, but they have Io Manor, so it's okay.
Dude, even if you think that Michigan isn't the most talented team because they lost guys, sure. 91, 92 overall should have been where they landed. 88 is a fucking joke.
Yeah, well, their defense has dudes still.
It's still really fucking good, their defense. Stacked.
Yeah. I agree with Danny. I think Dak is QB7 projected. Who cares about the stack of point equity strong? Yeah, I agree with you. It's just, again, in the context of a Best Ball Mania team where week 17, you got to think of how I would win this tournament. If you have an unstacked Dak Prescott, he's going to need to either not be good in week 17 and Caleb's got to get you there and you're playing at a disadvantage, or he's got to like rush the touchdowns in or throw them to somebody that we're not even drafting right now, like Flournoy or something like that. It's just a challenging way to get there in the 1 week that matters in this tournament, because like all of the money's in week 17.
100%.
Could you guys do an updated rookie draft? We've never actually done. I don't think we've done a rookie draft in the summer. I think that would be a fun exercise to do in August, like early August, once training camp is underway and we kind of know who's getting the buzz and who's not getting the buzz. I think that would be an interesting exercise because you think of like a guy like Damian Pierce a couple of years ago. After training camp, he probably was going way higher in rookie drafts than he was back in May when we were doing rookie drafts. So that would be an interesting exercise for that, I think.
Well, the other one too that we could do is a way too early 2025 rookie draft. Now that we watch the running backs and receivers.
Oh yeah, we definitely should be doing a tier list / rookie draft, one of the two.
That honestly, that's something we should probably be doing soon before we get into the missive redraft.
Oh, we're going to, yeah,
July.
we're going to for sure. I missed out. I missed out on Marvin Harrison in 2 leagues because I didn't tank hard enough and ended up at 102. Don't tell me I'm gonna miss back to back. Yeah, I would. That would suck if you don't get Burden. Because if I would say this year you're going to be in very good.
McMillan or Genty is a very, very good consolation.
I mean, so is Malik Neighbors though. So I mean,
yeah, man, that's fair.
And I would argue that Malik Neighbors would be 101 next year, very easily actually,
very easily. Bro.
Needed floor production with the Cooks pick for the JMO, Luke McCaffrey, McMillan, Spike, Triumph, and I don't even know how to say that. I see what you were doing, man. Trying to save Burden into 102. I appreciate you. True. If you had to draft the 2025 rookies today, who is 102 after Burden, Ted or Genty? I would say Genty because I think that the NFL draft community will also view him as a first round caliber talent. But if he doesn't have draft capital and he goes like round 2 or something, then I would say Ted is 102.
The way I view it is Ted McMillan, you can make the case, is going to be a top 14 value dynasty wide receiver the moment he gets drafted, assuming top 10 draft capital. Again, I think top 14 would be the bare minimum because, again, there's still the possibility that Chris Olave has another middling wide receiver 2 season. You would take Ted over him, or Roma Dunze doesn't have the greatest rookie season. You would take Ted over him, or Drake London doesn't have a 1,300 plus yard season. You take Ted over him. Like, there's still the possibility that the guys that are being valued ahead of him right now may slip a little bit with a 2024 season that doesn't really meet their ceiling projection. But at the same time, like, that would be where I'd about have him, probably in the wide receiver 10 to wide receiver 14 range is where he lands. Luther Burden, on the other hand, probably being about where Malik Neighbors is valued this year, a top 6 to 8 type of dynasty wide receiver is about where I could see him. In terms of Genty, I mean, you can make the case as soon as he's drafted, he is the RB4 in dynasty. And flat out, if he has a monster season this year, gets drafted in the top 20 to 25, and let's say Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't really take the biggest step up, if somebody were to say, hey, I would rather take, 18th overall pick Ashton Genty to, let's just say, the Dallas Cowboys, for example. The Cowboys went 10-7 and finished, in the wild card round, and they took Genty at like the 18th or the 21st overall pick or something like that.
Danny mentally preparing himself for another first round exit is hilarious.
I am putting a scenario out there. Again, it doesn't have to be specifically the Cowboys. I said the Cowboys because they could be a running back needy team, but insert any running back needy team in the early portion of the 20 to 23 type of range. Would you take him over Jahmyr Gibbs if Jahmyr Gibbs didn't take a big step?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on what Gibbs looked like during that didn't take a big step.
Let's say he was the RB8 in fantasy points per game.
It's possible. I potentially would. It would all depend on how Genty tests and how high he gets drafted and that kind of stuff. Like you said, he probably.
Some people may be hearing this, by the way, and be like, "Oh, that sounds outrageous." But like, if Genty's a first round pick, and you're basically viewing it as a reroll from again at that point, a 24-year-old running back versus a 21, 22, I believe is what Genty would be when you would commit.
Yeah, not to mention that Genty's big enough to carry a bigger workload too than Gibbs would be, so that would also be part of it. I laugh at Cowboys fans anyways, regardless of Zeke contracts. I mean, we can laugh at Zeke contracts all we want, but he's on a cheap contract now and he might score 14 rushing touchdowns. So that's where I'm at with Ezekiel Elliott.
I was just outlining a potential scenario. Again, you guys know where I think
it is funny that you did outline the scenario that has happened the last couple of years.
I think we're going to win more than 10-7, or I think we're going to get
better
more than 10-7.
But you still might be picking 21st overall.
Maybe. I just outlined a scenario. Again, insert any wild card divisional team that needs a running back. Like, fuck it, put the Texans in that group. If Joe Mixon is garbage and they want to get off that contract after this year, I believe there's not much dead money if they were to cut him. I know it's a 3-year deal, but I think it was only based off 1 year. So the Texans would fit that as well. And to be honest, could you imagine Genty in that Bobby Slowick scheme?
Oh, that would be really fun. Anyways, we are going to head out of here. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. Again, if you are new to Underdog Fantasy, you know the drill. Head on over there. Promo code FSE when you sign up for 250 in bonus cash, as well as a special pick'em entry. Again, a week from today, we will have the first edition of our redraft guide for those of you guys that are here getting ready for your home leagues and you want to know, who are our quarterback rankings, running back rankings, wide receiver, tight end, all that stuff. We will have the truth series. We will have the risk ratings. We will have the combined ADP from all the sources. If you play on Sleeper, you get to see that. If you play on ESPN, you play on, of course, we're going to factor in underdog ADP to it as well, because I think it's a good way to balance home league ADP versus the sharp ADP, getting like kind of an average of the two. Kind of best prepares you for your home league draft. So again, if you're interested in that, signing up on Underdog and getting a $10 deposit with the promo code FSE is the best way that you can get access to that draft guide. But it, of course, will also be available on Flock Fantasy as well. And of course, if you guys are in states and you don't know if Underdog is legal, this is actually the draft availability map. So just look for your state there. And if you are available, you can always sign up over there and get the draft guide for free, like I said. So with that being said, we're going to sign out of here. We'll have Dynasty trade targets by position tomorrow. Peace out. We'll talk to you soon.